Chapter 483. By the time Yuan Zhang rushed over to the fan meet, it had already ended. The artists had already boarded their return vehicles and left. Yuan Zhang had no choice but to find Feng Zhao. It wasn't easy to get a chance to meet his idol. He couldn't miss this opportunity. The schedule for the invited artists on their first day on Planet Een was rather tight. Some of the older artists were already in low spirits and looked exhausted. After returning from the fan meet, Feng Zhao went to fetch Curly Hair. "Boss, is Curly Hair still not used to the environment here? Why do I see him drooling and panting?" Nanfeng was worried. "He'll get used to it in 2 days," Feng Zhao replied. Nanfeng pondered for a bit. "That's true. Planet Yin's environment does require some time to get used to. Even me, Zuiyu, Yin Biao, and the others felt a little dizzy when we first arrived." Nanfeng passed the dog food and pet supplies to Feng Zhao. "The staff at the reception desk told us to collect more after we're done." Nanfeng didn't say much when he saw the other artists preparing to head back to rest. "Then, boss, you go back and get some rest. If there's anything, just contact us. We will handle it. We will be on standby." "All right, you guys go back and rest too." Feng Zhao brought Curly Hair back to his room and poured him a bowl of dog food. Curly Hair went to eat it, feeling aggrieved. He ate it piece by piece as if he cherished it. The food in the bowl would be gone after he finished it. He would have to wait another 4 to 5 hours for his next meal. He had no choice. He couldn't do as he pleased after arriving on Planet Een. Besides dog food, he couldn't eat anything else, and he couldn't eat too much. "You have to learn to control yourself," Feng Zhao said. "You can watch TV if you perform well. Planet Yin's TV will be broadcasted live." Curly Hair swallowed the bowl of dog food in one gulp and pushed the bowl towards Feng Zhao. What he meant was, "Look, I didn't swallow the bowl too. I did well, didn't I? All right, you can watch TV by yourself." As soon as Feng Zhao finished speaking, Curly Hair ran over to the television in the room and switched to the political news channel. He put on a very serious expression. After a while, Feng Zhao went to the study. Curly Hair peeked in and saw Feng Zhao immersed in his work. Curly Hair switched to a competitive gaming channel and watched a live broadcast. In the study, Feng Zhao sighed silently. It wasn't that he didn't know about Curly Hair's little tricks, but he pretended not to notice. It was good to have something to divert Curly Hair's attention so that he wouldn't drool all the time. After tidying up the music score in his hands, Feng Zhao continued with his revision. For this performance, Feng Zhao wanted to recreate Legend and give it a new lease of life. He had already shown him Mo Lang the score for the second composition, and it had been approved. When it came to understanding works and the composer's will, Mo Lang only trusted Feng Zhao. Therefore, Feng Zhao had a lot of things to do. Next, he had to communicate with the band members, supervise the band's rehearsal, point out the flaws in the rehearsal process, and provide solutions. Just as he was sorting out the proposal, the doorbell rang. Feng Zhao did not hang a "Do Not Disturb" sign on the door, and he did not know who would come looking for him at this time. The artist had already gone back to rest. When he opened the door, he saw a young man and 2 soldiers standing outside. Feng Zhao was astonished when he saw the golden badge the young man was wearing. Although he had just arrived on Planet Een, Feng Zhao already knew the corresponding rank of the badge. Those 2 soldiers were probably there to protect this young man. There would be people responsible for the safety of gold badge engineers when they went out. However, to be able to reach the gold badge rank at such a young age, he was definitely an extremely important talent. It was only right for him to be protected. When the young man in front of him saw Feng Zhao, he was both excited and somewhat reserved. Zhao, big bro. My name is Yuan Zhang. I'm your die-hard fan." His words were forceful and resounding, especially the last 3 words. The 2 soldiers behind him. What happened to being a rational fan? Did I say something wrong because I was too nervous? However, Yuan Zhang did not realize what he had said wrong. He did not even remember what he had said. Right now, all he could think about was the excitement of meeting his idol. "Big bro Zhao, did I disturb you?" Yuan Zhang scratched his head in embarrassment. "No, come on in." Feng Zhao smiled. "Hey, thank you, big bro Zhao." When Yuan Zhang entered the house, the 2 soldiers followed him in. Yuan Zhang snapped out of his daze and hurriedly explained, "Big bro Zhao, These two are here to ensure my safety. According to regulations, gold badge engineers need at least 2 soldiers to protect them when they go out. It's only right. Fang Zhao poured 2 cups of water for the 2 soldiers and handed them over. Then, he looked at Yuan Zhang. In front of his idol, Yuan Zhang did his best to show off his excellence. Before coming to Fang Zhao, he had worn all the medals he had received. He had also polished and worn the little gold badge that symbolized his rank as a Planetine engineer. He would never embarrass his idol. I was born on Planetine and am currently a gold badge engineer at the Warp Engine Technology Research Institute. My parents are also warp engine engineers. I am the 2nd generation of engineers in my family. Big Bro Zhao, you can also call people like us 2nd generation warp. I have participated in many important projects. Cough. Yuan Zhang had just started speaking when a soldier beside him coughed, reminding him that there were some things he could not say. Yuan Zhang paused for a moment and skipped the important projects part before continuing. In any case, I am very impressive. When it comes to talent, I am the Research Institute's 1st, 2nd. Apart from little Xiong who came not too long ago, I am the youngest gold badge engineer in our Research Institute. As he said this, Yuan Zhang still felt a little sullen. In the past, he had indeed been the Research Institute's #1 genius. Ever since that kid with the surname Xiong arrived, he had been pushed down the throne. When I knew you were coming, I even prepared a big gift. I personally made a model of a warship. It's a pity that after the security check, there was only 1 component left. I wasn't able to rush over for the afternoon fan meeting. As he spoke, Yuan Zhang's voice became softer and softer. He squeezed out an awkward and bitter smile and handed over the fingernail-sized component. After going through the security check, only a small part was left. Yuan Zhang had no choice. This was already the security officer's bottom line. Even a genius gold badge engineer like him could not make an exception. Yuan Zhang didn't have any other presentable gifts on hand. He hadn't made sufficient preparations because he was pressed for time, so he could only hand over the component. Big Bro Zhao, you guys still have to stay on Planetine for a period of time. I will go back and make another gift that can pass the security check. This is already very good, Fang Zhao said as he took the unremarkable component. Fang Zhao took the unremarkable component. This is a part of the warp engine model, right? Yes. Yuan Zhang wanted to say something else, but the soldier beside him coughed softly and swallowed his words. Yuan Zhang felt wronged. Too difficult. As a gold badge engineer, chasing after an idol was too difficult. He couldn't mention this or that, and he couldn't even give out a gift. He was too embarrassed to speak to his idol. Yuan Zhang, who was racking his brains for an explanation, raised his head and realized that Fang Zhao was looking at him. His smile was benevolent. Yuan Zhang met Fang Zhao's gaze. Before Yuan Zhang could figure out what Fang Zhao's gaze meant, Fang Zhao took out a palm-sized box and handed it over. Inside was the Poseidonsaur skeleton model. For me? Yuan Zhang was so excited that he stuttered. Fang Zhao nodded. Yuan Zhang extended both hands and received the box solemnly, as if he was receiving an imperial edict. Big Bro Zhao, can you sign your name on the base of the model? Sure. Fang Zhao found a suitable pen and signed his name on the base of the Poseidonsaur skeleton model. Worried that he would disturb Fang Zhao's rest, Yuan Zhang didn't stay for long and quickly left. Yuan Zhang hugged the box containing the Poseidonsaur skeleton model to his chest all the way out. Yuan Zhang's eyes were red as he walked away. I'm so touched. I actually received a gift from Big Bro Zhao when I gave him a damaged component. However, the 2 soldiers following beside him couldn't understand his feelings. According to regulations, you have to go through security checks when you receive a gift from an outsider. Please cooperate. Although the luggage of the invited artist had gone through many security checks, Yuan Zhang still had to go through another security check when he received the gift. This was also to protect his personal safety. Yuan Zhang reluctantly handed over the model box. Be careful, don't break the bones, especially the base. Don't rub off your signature. When Yuan Zhang returned to the Research Institute, Fang Zhao didn't continue with his work. Instead, he was looking at the small gift he had just received. Although Yuan Zhang had revealed very little information, Fang Zhao could still deduce some things. Combined with all the questions he had previously had, he had a guess. He recalled what Barbara had said when they had first discovered the Alcade. The dream team of veteran exploration teams, bearing the pinnacle of intelligence from that era. The pinnacle of intelligence from that era? Fang Zhao muttered as he looked at the small component in his hand. The Alcade of the dream team had existed for 400 years. Yuan Zhang had just mentioned Little Bear. It was highly likely that this was the ordinary-looking child with a mechanical core. The child that had once existed on the Alcade. To be able to achieve such a perfect disguise in a crowd, this wasn't any ordinary artificial intelligence. During the period of destruction, Fang Zhao had come into contact with many of the great scientists of that era. He knew that every time there was a flash of human intelligence, the development of the world would take a leap forward. However, what was the possibility of artificial intelligence, energy technology, space warp, spaceships, and so on simultaneously undergoing multiple flashes of intelligence in a mere 100 years after the founding of the new era? During this period, the world that had suffered a devastating blow still needed to recover from the cataclysm, rebuild cities, and form a new order in the 12 continents. Is it a great burst of intelligence, or? Fang Zhao's gaze was focused on the small component in his hand. It was as if he was looking through this tiny component to a distant image. There was another possibility. An outsider. An outsider. Chapter 484. Fang Zhao still had no way of ascertaining the actual situation. However, based on what he understood, if there were outsiders, the most likely aliens would be the legendary father of the warp engine, interplanetary fund founder, Great Master Hong Xian. He had brought about too many changes and had also created a special status for the interplanetary fund. Fang Zhao didn't know what the objective of these outsiders was or how many people there were. However, from the looks of it, they weren't hostile and had even nurtured many top talents. However, these were just guesses. Fang Zhao recalled the impact of seeing this new world when he had been resurrected in that small rented apartment in the Black Street. Fang Zhao smiled as he looked at the unremarkable little component in his hand. He placed it in the box. The future is here. Planet Een Warp Engine Technology Research Institute. Inside the security checkpoint. It was the same security officer, but there was a different person waiting to be picked up. A child wearing a golden badge was crying on the table. Wah? You can't detain my little riches. My little riches. Wah wah wah. The child's voice was full of tears and cadence. His eyes were red, his lips were trembling, and he would burp from time to time, making the security guard sitting across the table feel guilty. The security officer's usually expressionless face revealed a rare vexed expression. How could he have known that this child would cry at the slightest disagreement? Headache. The security officer softened his voice. That black sphere, your little riches is still undergoing inspection. He was worried that speaking too loudly would scare this gold badge engineer who was even more talented than Yuan Zhang. However, just as he finished speaking, another loud cry broke out. It's already been 15 minutes and 7 seconds. How can the security check be so slow? Has my little riches met with misfortune? The child on the table didn't even raise his head as his tears flowed even more violently. The security officer glanced at the time on the wall monitor and thought to himself, as expected of a gold badge engineer. He doesn't even need to look at the time display to know the time. However, the situation was complicated. The security check naturally took longer. Yuan Zheng's fleet model had taken even longer. Only 15 minutes had passed. After another 5 minutes, the small black ball was sent over. The security officer hurriedly handed the black sphere over when he saw the approval sign. He even squeezed it as he did so. It felt really good and was suitable for reducing stress. No wonder the child liked it. After Little Bear took back Little Riches, he said, "There's also my Gooden and Gook. How did they break the rules? Without them, I'll be lonely and scared. That's a dangerous item. You can't take it out without permission. As for your safety, don't worry. We will send someone to protect you," the security officer said. "I want them. My dog Dan and dog Leftover. So pitiful." As she cried, She took out a bottle of water from her backpack and gulped it down. After that, she continued to cry. The security officers continued to have a headache. They had already asked their superiors for instructions on how to deal with the two mechanical dogs. Those were indeed Little Bear's personal belongings, but they were also loaded with weapons, so they had to be treated with caution. Vexed, the security guard rummaged through the drawer, took out a lollipop, and handed it over. "Come, eat some candy. Don't cry." Sobbing, Little Bear put the lollipop into his pocket and continued sobbing. The security guard. "My head hurts." Amidst Little Bear's sobs, the reply finally came. The security guard heaved a sigh of relief and forced out a smile that he thought was friendly. "All right, I've received approval. You can bring your little riches, Dog Dan, and dog leftover away. However, you still have to abide by the rules when playing outside." "All right." The crying stopped, and Little Bear jumped down from the chair. With one hand holding onto the two mechanical dogs and the other holding onto the black ball, it left happily. The security guard. Wasn't this change in attitude too fast? This was a drama queen. Were kids nowadays so awesome? The security guard felt that today's incident had taught him a lesson. Little Bear, who had already run out, was very pleased. Pretending to be a kid was so good. He was so willful at such a young age. The people in the research institute were very tolerant of genius kids. Now that the research institute was developing a new generation of warp engines, Little Bear's contribution was very big. In comparison, his willfulness and temper tantrums were small matters. Therefore, everyone gave in to him when he threw a little tantrum. However, when it came to the development of the warp engine, Little Bear was very dissatisfied. He had piloted the Alcade for 400 years, but there was only so little progress. It was too slow. Back then, they had 7 superintelligences and Master Hung Xin. How fast was their development speed? The engine was also upgraded quickly. That efficiency, TSK. Now, this bunch of people couldn't even catch up with them. It was a pity that 400 years had passed. The other 6 superintelligences had either defected and been destroyed or malfunctioned, and went into hibernation. Now, he was the only one who could do anything. Sigh, the 7 superintelligences that accompanied Master Hung Xin back then. Now, he was the only one left. Really excited. Ha ha ha, no one is bullying me anymore. I'm the biggest. Those 6 above me are finally gone. Why do I need my own kind? Humans are so fun. Especially the ones here. They are weak and no threat. I just like to play with these sentient species. Whenever I feel bored, I can just create a few more playmates. Little Bear was very satisfied with his current life. Ever since he returned from the Alcade, his life had been very carefree. There was just one bad thing. Why do I have to work? I'm still a baby. 400 years ago, I was a baby. 400 years later, I'm still a baby. The world is so beautiful. I haven't had enough fun. If it wasn't to repay a debt, who would be willing to come here? His movements were restricted, and he had to go through security checks when he went out after work. Even Little Riches was almost detained there. He even had to be followed when he went out. Little Bear glanced at the 2 soldiers behind him and pouted unhappily. He had learned this pouting behavior from a child star on television. He heard that it made him look cuter and more likable. However, Little Bear only pouted and acted cute in front of outsiders. If he deliberately acted cute in front of Demon Queen Chui Hua, he would get beaten up. Although Master Hung Xin had passed away, Hung Xion's descendants still had ways to suppress him. For example, Chui Hua. In Little Bear's eyes, Chui Hua was a demon queen who made him work overtime at the drop of a hat. He had only borrowed some money to buy music copyrights. Was there a need to throw him into a place filled with workaholics? Fortunately, he was very good at pretending to be a child. Little Bear continued to be pleased. He liked that this bunch of weak humans treated him like a minor. It saved him a lot of trouble. Other than the upper echelons of Planet Een and a few core managers of the Interplanetary Fund, no one here knew his true age. Little Bear was happy again at this thought. So what if I have to work overtime? It's fine as long as I can play. Little Bear pondered on what excuse to apply for leave in the future. He led the dogs over to the reception area like a thug patrolling the streets. He wanted to look for Feng Zhao to play. He had heard someone mention Feng Zhao in the Research Institute. The artists invited for Planet Yin's joint performance had arrived today. Feng Zhao knew his background and had a good temper, so Little Bear was more than happy to interact with Feng Zhao. At the very least, he could act cute in front of Feng Zhao and didn't need to worry about getting beaten up. Previously, Feng Zhao had reminded him to drink more water when he heard Little Bear cry while watching Founding Era. What a good person. The staff at the reception area recognized Little Bear. He was the only child on Planet Een with a gold badge and 2 mechanical dogs. Furthermore, Little Bear had stayed here for 2 days when he had first arrived on Planet Een. Everyone had a deep impression of him. However, due to Little Bear's gold badge engineer rank, everyone didn't usually call him Little Bear, Master Bear, Teacher Bear, or Master Bear. Instead, they jokingly called him Young Bear. Everyone was more tolerant towards this sort of high-level technical talent. After all, he was still a child. Upon seeing Little Bear and hearing that he was looking for Feng Zhao, the staff at the reception area personally brought Little Bear upstairs to look for Feng Zhao. When they entered the elevator, Little Bear fished out a lollipop from his pocket and handed it to the building manager. Bribes weren't accepted, but a lollipop was a token of goodwill. Furthermore, it was from a child, so the building manager didn't reject it. He received the lollipop, thanked Little Bear, and revealed an amiable smile. He reached out to pat Little Bear's head, but his gaze swept across the gold badge and he retracted his hand. The head of a gold badge engineer wasn't something that could be touched just because one wanted to. This was respect for a high-level talent. Feng Zhao's room. Curly Hair, who was watching the live broadcast of the esports arena on the gaming channel, twitched his ears and licked his nose. He struggled to shift his gaze away from the television screen and turned to look at the door. Then, he walked over to the door and lay down, his clear dog eyes staring at the door. Feng Zhao, who was editing his music score, also looked at the closed door. On the other side of the door, Little Bear approached step by step. However, the closer he got to the door, the smaller and slower his steps became. His previously rosy complexion turned pale and beads of perspiration formed on his forehead. His footsteps stopped. He had gotten carried away and neglected an important matter. Now, he remembered. In Little Bear's hands, Little Rich's, who had just relaxed a little, curled into a perfect ball once again. Seeing Little Bear suddenly stop, the building manager said, "Feng Zhao's room is just ahead. It's less than 5 meters away." "No, I feel that this isn't a good time. Let's not disturb him." Little Bear shook his head vigorously and didn't take another step forward. Noticing that Little Bear's complexion wasn't right and that he was sweating profusely, the building manager panicked. Nothing must happen to this kind of genius. "Are you feeling unwell? I'll send you to the infirmary downstairs," the building manager said as he contacted the medical staff. No. I just thought of something important. I'll be leaving first. Bye-bye." Young Evil led the dog and slipped away. Running out of the reception area in one breath, Little Bear wiped his sweat, swiped his staff card at the self-service water dispenser, and gulped down the entire bottle. He was severely dehydrated today and needed to rehydrate. Looking at Gooden and Goshing, who seemed to be oblivious to the crisis just now, Little Bear regretted it. "I actually forked out all my salary to be your brains." Chapter 485. Little Bear slipped away quickly and decisively. Curly Hair, who was waiting by the door, was disappointed. However, his attention was quickly drawn back to the esports broadcast, and he continued watching the match. Feng Zhao thought about it a lot. Although the soundproofing of the door was good, Feng Zhao could still hear the conversation outside with his current hearing ability. Feng Zhao felt that Little Bear's behavior was rather interesting. A child. No, it should be more accurate to say that he had a mystical AI. He was getting more and more interested in these fellows who seemed to be outsiders. However, the most important matter for Feng Zhao now was the upcoming joint performance. The next day, Feng Zhao and the other artists were sent to Planet Yin's Arts and Culture Center. In the following period of time, Feng Zhao would be rehearsing with a portion of Planet Yin's youth and music lovers. Planet Yin had its own schools that ranged from kindergarten to university. Generation after generation was born, worked, and lived on Planet Een. Planet Een already had its own system. However, this didn't mean that Planet Een was cut off from the rest of the world. People born on Planet Een would have a choice when they advanced from primary school to secondary school. They could choose to continue their studies on Planet Een or transfer to a school on Earth. People who stayed on Planet Een to continue their studies would also have the opportunity to study on Earth as an exchange student during their secondary or university years. Planet Een wasn't a completely isolated and cold military factory. It had connections with Earth, Planet Baiji, Planet Y, Planet Boo, and other planets. Fang Zhao's next collaborating partners were high school and university students who had chosen to stay on Planet Een. There were also some young music lovers from the Research Institute. Rehearsals hadn't started yet, so it was considered leisure time. Fang Zhao didn't immediately enter the designated rehearsal area after arriving at the Arts and Culture Center. Instead, he stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows in the teacher's lounge and watched the students inside. The person who had brought Fang Zhao over was called Gu Meng. He used to be from Planet Yin's combat forces. After retiring from the front lines, he picked up his own hobby and applied for a transfer to the Arts and Culture Center. Now, he was an instructor at the Arts and Culture Center. Because he had a mild temperament and took good care of the students, he was jokingly called Mama Gu by the students. Gu Meng was still very protective of Planet Yin students in front of an outsider like Fang Zhao. When he introduced the students to Fang Zhao, he would pick out the good parts and praise their talent, character, and merits. He even brought out photos of some of the students who had won awards on Earth. In short, no matter what they do outside, they are very obedient here. However, the students present did not know that someone was praising them for being obedient. Because it was not rehearsal time yet, the people present were more casual, and it was very lively. Secondary school student area. Hey bro, which class are you from? I've never seen you before. I'm in the rocket class. I'm from the armor class. I just entered the school, and I'm a newbie. Fuck. Where's my flute? Why is there a gun barrel here? Did my grandpa put the gun barrel in my flute bag by mistake again? University student area. A second-year student majoring in aviation flight and command said, I just came back from my internship yesterday. This time, I tried 2 new fighter jets. Hee. I was so excited that I couldn't sleep the whole night. I took a nap this morning and almost missed the rehearsal. The senior student from the aircraft design and engineering major next to him had tears on his face as he recalled the final exam that had just ended. I didn't go on a mission, but I almost failed the theory exam. I almost couldn't make it. Not far away, a tall and burly student of the heavy mecha specialization roared, Do you have heavy mecha? The team was short of 1 player. The light mecha next door has invited us to a 4v4 zither duel. Forget it. All of you broke your bows in the last duel. Today's rehearsal hasn't even started. How are you going to practice with your bows broken? If you want a duel, you should at least wait until after today's rehearsal, someone advised. Bows were broken every time they dueled. Even custom-made bows could not withstand the craziness of this bunch of people. The rate of broken bows was too high. Gu Meng felt the need to explain to these students. He hoped that this bunch of students would leave a good impression on Fang Zhao. Compared to the students from Mother Planet, these students were simply dangerous carnivores baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. The artist from Mother Planet might not be able to accept it. Fang Zhao smiled as he watched. How lively. Gu Meng had been worried that this bunch of students would scare Fang Zhao, but he relaxed after hearing Fang Zhao say this. Sigh. It's good that you can accept their style of doing things. Actually, they might seem aggressive, but they are very gentle and obedient when they pick up their instruments. Pretty good, Fang Zhao said. He could tell that although these students were young, they were not the type that grew up in a greenhouse. These students were the type that would pick up their instruments obediently during rehearsal, put them down, and immediately join the battle. Looking at the time, Fang Zhao said to Gu Meng, Let's go. Rehearsal begins. Gu Meng was right. When these students picked up their instruments for rehearsal, they were indeed obedient and very serious. One could see their passion for music. However, they were not professional performers, and there were all sorts of problems during rehearsal. As the conductor of the orchestra, Fang Zhao had a lot of work to do. In this band, Fang Zhao was the leader and oversaw the entire band. He led the students through their rehearsals, from solo performances for the instruments to group performances. During rehearsals, Fang Zhao would look for them to discuss any parts that were difficult to coordinate. There were so many instruments in Imolang's legend, and Fang Zhao had a thick stack of scores in his hands. He still had to make corresponding changes, and there were countless details that needed to be handled. There was also a pre-rehearsal plan and post-rehearsal summary to be written. The performance on stage was just a rendition of the entire song, but the effort behind it was unimaginable. However, Fang Zhao could overcome these difficulties. After the first day of rehearsal, Fang Zhao contacted Imolang. Fang Zhao wanted to make changes to the music score that Imolang had seen previously. Fang Zhao had written the previous score before coming to Planet Een. Now, Fang Zhao had some new insights. He briefly explained his thoughts to Imolang and gave a reason for his changes. Imolang expressed his thoughts: art carves life, and music molds the soul. Different environments and different performers will produce different performances. I believe that you will make the best choice. Fang Zhao, you have to remember, when I hand over the score, this piece of music is yours. Don't ask me how you want to change it. What you need to do is lead your orchestra and your students to perform the performance you envision. Perform the new legend that you hope for. All right. After making his decision, Fang Zhao stayed up late to make changes to the music score. This performance was an important test for Fang Zhao from Imolang. For Fang Zhao, this performance was also his gift to Planet Een. After arriving on Planet Een, Fang Zhao discovered that, unbeknownst to him, flowers as dazzling as starlight had already bloomed on this foreign land. The future was approaching at an alarming speed. Chapter 486. Over the next few days, Fang Zhao spent most of his time at the Arts Center and interacted more and more with the students. The students participating in the rehearsals also discovered that this young artist wasn't simple at all. The news online hadn't exaggerated in the slightest. From guns and mechas to the arts exam, Fang Zhao was able to follow up on anything they said. Gu Meng had been worried that Fang Zhao wouldn't be able to control this group of young students. These kids had grown up on Planet Een and had been exposed to different environments since young. There would always be some friction during rehearsals, and if it wasn't handled well, it might even lead to a fight. Gu Meng planned to have a private chat with those who like to stir up trouble, especially those who like to cause trouble. But after 2 days of observation, he realized that the content he had prepared for the conversation hadn't been used at all. After wandering around the rehearsal grounds, Gu Meng had nothing better to do and went to chat with other instructors. In the lounge of the Arts Center, Gu Meng, why do I feel like you've been very free lately? Someone asked. They don't need me there. Fang Zhao is enough. I can only come over to have a chat. Gu Meng picked a chair and sat down. An instructor sitting beside him raised an eyebrow. Fang Zhao is the only conductor of the entire orchestra? You didn't send anyone over to help out? I did, but I can't share much of the workload. Fang Zhao still handles most of the work personally. He writes out all the details on the score and personally conducts during rehearsals to minimize any flaws during the performance. Can't others share the workload? We have professional musicians here too. It's not the same. In terms of understanding the selected works, they can't compare to Fang Zhao. The instructor's eyes flickered as he came over and asked, "Didn't those little guys cause any trouble?" They were well behaved. Gu Meng replied, "TSK, Gu Meng, it's one thing for you to say that to the people outside, but you're still trying to play these games in front of us. Do you think we don't know what kind of people they are? Sai, I'm telling the truth this time. If you don't believe me, you can go take a look at any time." Gu Meng laughed. The instructors didn't believe him and didn't pick another time. They got up and went over to the youth orchestra to take a look. When they returned, they were all surprised. That's rare. It's rare to see them so obedient. Has their temperament changed? Is their rebellious phase over? Have they become more mature? Gu Meng thought of something and laughed for a while before saying, "Of course it's not that easy. Just yesterday, during the solo match, a fellow from Heavy Machine didn't perform too well. Fang Zhao went to have a chat with him." The other instructors smiled in understanding. During military exercises or battles, the heavy mechas would usually rush to the front lines. The personalities of the people trained in the relevant professions were more or less affected. However, it was just that he was too fierce and aggressive. He was too aggressive and not someone who could be controlled by just anyone. Are those kids that easy to teach? He was young and full of vigor. How could he obediently accept the commands of an outsider? Facing Feng Zhao, the student from Heavy Machine School was the vanguard. "What has he done?" asked the instructor. He argued with Feng Zhao, saying, "If you can do it, you do it." And then Feng Zhao really went up. The other instructors, "Huh? Is it a zither duel or?" One of the instructors made a fist-waving gesture. Both. Comparing instruments and martial prowess, I have to say that Feng Zhao is really a talent. Didn't that give that kid a huge blow? No, Feng Zhao still takes care of their emotions. According to my observations, they aren't traumatized, but they are much more well-behaved during rehearsals. If you ask me, we have to find someone to discipline those kids. Zither duels at the drop of a hat. Do they really think they are a zither saint? They don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. We have to let them know that there is always someone better than them. We have to constantly remind them that there is always someone better. Look at this time. After being called over for a chat by Feng Zhao, aren't they much more well-behaved? They are so well-behaved now because Feng Zhao can control them. As he spoke, the instructor's smile faded. Speaking of which, I just saw the training schedule. It isn't any less intense than our usual standard training. Feng Zhao is shouldering so much on his own. I feel tired just watching him. He is too hardworking. Can his body take it? He had seen many of Feng Zhao's deeds in authoritative media. Compared to other artists, Feng Zhao's physique was definitely stronger, but he is an artist after all. He can't compare to these kids who received military training from a young age. That's right. I saw that the other artists who were invited brought helpers. Their assistants are skilled in both literature and martial arts. They can help with a lot of the workload. Did Feng Zhao bring an assistant? Gu Meng had a complicated expression. Yes, but he got his assistant to take care of the dog. Even if his assistant doesn't walk the dog, he won't be of much help. He isn't a professional and doesn't know much about music. An old instructor shook his head and lamented. Feng Zhao is still too young and inexperienced. He should have brought along a useful helper. Other people's assistants can help with planning, but his assistant is actually busy taking care of the dog. He sent an assistant and 2 bodyguards to take care of the dog. I don't know what he's thinking. I can't understand the thinking of youngsters these days, Gu Meng said. What a dog slave. I heard that dog of his is worth a lot of money. Gu Meng sighed. Who knows? When I was there, I noticed that he would check his messages every hour or 2. He would even call when he was taking a break. It was all about the dog. At this moment, Feng Zhao, who was the center of all the instructors' discussions, was on the phone with Nanfeng. It was currently a break for rehearsals, so Feng Zhao took some time to understand Curly Hair's situation. Early this morning, Planetine Spaceport's anti-smuggling team had come looking for Feng Zhao. They wanted Curly Hair to take a look at their spaceport. The spaceport service dogs were undergoing their preliminary examinations, and they wanted Curly Hair to try out and exchange pointers with Planet Yin service dogs. Feng Zhao wasn't worried about the preliminary examinations. He was worried that Curly Hair wouldn't be able to control his mouth when he got agitated. He sent Nanfeng and the other 2 to keep an eye on Curly Hair, but he couldn't relax. He got Nanfeng to send a message every half an hour. Nanfeng turned on a video call with Feng Zhao. Hello, boss. We are still at the spaceport. Everything is fine. Video calls couldn't be made anywhere in the spaceport. Even cameras weren't allowed. Video calls had to be made in a designated area. Nanfeng was currently talking to Feng Zhao in a designated area. There were walls all around, and there weren't any personal or military secrets. Even the tables, chairs, lamps, and water dispenser were common models. Have the preliminary examinations for the service dogs at the spaceport started yet? Feng Zhao asked. Not yet. It seems like something cropped up at the mines, and they went out on a mission. They just returned half an hour ago. Nanfeng explained the situation to Feng Zhao. Most of the service dogs on Planetine are large dogs. There are only 2 medium-sized dogs and no small dogs. Curly Hair is the smallest here. but our Curly Curls isn't afraid of them. He even went up to greet them. Nanfeng felt proud when he recalled the situation. Boss, do you know? Curly Hair didn't lose out to those arrogant Planetine dogs. He really made us proud. Feng Zhao's tone was subtle. What did he do? Nanfeng, who was immersed in his joy and pride, didn't notice Feng Zhao's change. Nothing much. Curly Hair just went up to greet those Planetine dogs. How did he do that? Feng Zhao asked. It just went over and sniffed, then licked the leader dog. Don't worry, boss. He didn't fight. He really just licked it. What was the reaction of the dog that was licked? Feng Zhao asked. It seemed like it was frightened. It tucked its tail between its legs and shrank back. It even barked loudly and avoided Curly Hair when it saw him. Our little Curls is really impressive. Nanfeng felt that everything was rather normal. From Nanfeng's point of view, everything was quite normal. Some big dogs were very capable, but they might not be very courageous. Some were even afraid of small dogs. Feng Zhao's eyes twitched. He didn't say much to Nanfeng. Instead, he said, "Let Curly Hair come over. I want to say a few words to him." "All right. Come, Curly Hair. Boss wants to talk to you." Nanfeng aimed the communication device's camera at Curly Hair. Curly Hair walked over with his tail drooping and a guilty look on his face. Feng Zhao stared at Curly Hair and only spoke when his ears drooped. He only said 2 sentences. The first sentence, "Be good." The second sentence, "Watch your mouth." The 2 sentences seemed very calm, but Nanfeng couldn't help but tremble when he heard them. Terrifying. Without a doubt, Curly Hair was being scolded again. He might even have to face the wall when he returned. Nanfeng was at a loss regarding Curly Hair being scolded. Why would Boss be so strict with a dog? Wasn't it just a lick? What did he do wrong? Nanfeng whispered to Zuoyu. "I don't think so." Zuoyu replied. "What's wrong with a dog licking a dog? There's nothing wrong with that." Chapter 487. Nanfeng and the other 2 felt that Feng Zhao was making a mountain out of a molehill and exaggerating. There were also people who labeled Feng Zhao as a dog slave. Feng Zhao didn't care what other people thought of him. He wanted people to keep an eye on Curly Hair at all times. One person was not enough, but 3 people were still on edge. One had to know that in the natural world, some wild animals wouldn't even recognize their own kin in front of food. Although Curly Hair was domesticated, no one could be sure what he would do when he was agitated. It might just be a bite. If Curly Hair could lick that dog today, he would be able to swallow that dog tomorrow. Feng Zhao wasn't always thinking about the worst. These were all possibilities, and he had to nip them in the bud. In Curly Hair's eyes, were airport service dogs the same kind? No, that was food. Thus, when Feng Zhao returned to his room after his rehearsal, he dragged Curly Hair, who was pretending to be asleep in a corner, over for a chat. "Did you lick the spaceport's dog today? Tell me, did you want to swallow it?" "I don't want to eat it." Curly Hair had to defend himself. They went to the mines on a mission and came back with some slag on their bodies. "I licked the slag off their bodies." "You really didn't think about it?" Feng Zhao stared into Curly Hair's eyes. Curly Hair avoided Feng Zhao's gaze and lowered his head. I only want to eat a little." It really wanted to swallow that dog. No, the entire dog team. Unfortunately, Feng Zhao wouldn't let it, so it could only think about it and lick the slag. Curly Hair licked his lips as he spoke. The slag was delicious. The ore must be even more delicious. Unfortunately, those dogs were too timid and kept hiding. Nanfeng was also too quick to complain. He had only licked one dog before Feng found out. For the next 2 hours, Curly Hair was subjected to Feng Zhao's carrot and stick admonishment. Finally, Feng Zhao put on a serious face. "I hope that before you take any action, you will think about what you're wearing on your dog neck. The next time you lick it, I'll take it back." Curly Hair shrunk his neck as if trying to hide the dog tag terminal he was wearing. "Don't lick randomly." "I promise I won't lick randomly." He hadn't even used it yet, so how could he take it back? "When can I use the terminal?" Curly Hair asked. "After the performance here ends, you can use it when you go home." "Soon." while Feng Zhao was training the dog in the building on the other side of the reception area. Zuiyu and Yin Biao stayed together on a different floor from Nanfeng. Zuiyu and Yin Biao didn't stay in the same room as Nanfeng. At this moment, Yin Biao was telling Zuiyu his thoughts. I want to change jobs, Yin Biao said. Why? Isn't this a good job? Zuiyu was surprised. There's less work and the pay is high. Where else can I find such a job? Then what's the point of keeping it? Be a salted fish? Walking the dog every day? Yin Biao laughed bitterly. Zuiyu raised his eyebrows and asked, Do you think walking the dog is a waste of your talent? Yin Biao shook his head. You can't say that. I just don't feel good about getting such a high salary all day long without doing proper work. Although we are bodyguards, what kind of life do we lead? Who has bodyguards like us? Walking the dog all day and getting such a high salary. Wasn't that a hot potato? Aren't you embarrassed? Zuiyu remained silent. Yin Biao continued. Nanfeng did a lot of work as an assistant. He was busy all day long. Even when he occasionally walked the dog, he was happy. That was the path he wanted to take. He lived a fulfilling life. But what about us? The salted fish duo? Zuiyu's smile turned bitter. He understood what Yin Biao meant. Actually, he felt the same way. How could he not care? Yin Biao took a deep breath. Let's not talk about the past. Let's talk about the present. After coming to Planet Een, I suddenly understood after looking at the people there. On Planet Een, where every citizen was a soldier, Yin Biao would hear a lot of military-related discussions every time he went out. Outsiders like them only had the right to watch a video clip of a military exercise. Just this alone was enough for Yin Biao to make a decision in advance. He somewhat missed the days when he had served on Planet Baiji. The feeling of his blood boiling and his bones crackling every day. When I first arrived on Planet Baiji, I dreamed of accomplishing something big. Later on, I gradually got used to that kind of life, until Feng Zhao discovered mineral deposits on Planet Baiji. He had served for so many years, yet he could only be a bystander when Planet Baiji was on the rise. If you hadn't been injured, you could have continued to stay on Planet Baiji and accomplish something big, Zuiyu said. I definitely felt indignant, but it's all in the past. I am also very grateful to Feng Zhao for helping me out during my most difficult time. But now, I feel like I am being helped out and being pitied. Look at those people on Planet Een. Many of them still have prosthetics and haven't retired. I am still in the prime of my life. I feel that I can still return to the battlefield and fight for another 50 years. Zuiyu understood that Yin Biao had been agitated. Actually, it wasn't just Yin Biao. Zuiyu also felt the same way. Suddenly, all sorts of emotions welled up in Zuiyu's heart. He also didn't really want to be a salted fish. He was embarrassed to talk about work in front of his former colleagues and comrades. Others would ask, What do you usually do? Are you busy? Would he reply, Busy walking the dog? Wouldn't that be embarrassing? Salted fish like us. Zuiyu felt that this wasn't right and immediately corrected himself. Bodyguards like us are indeed rare. Yin Biao chuckled when he heard the word salted fish. His smile contained complicated emotions. After retiring from the military, I have never slacked off in my training. I can go to the battlefield at any time. To protect Feng Zhao, I rushed to the front without a second word. I had no complaints. However, he only let me walk the dog. Zuiyu, now that it's just the two of us, I will speak the truth. I really feel that my abilities are useless. Feng Zhao can fight better than the two of us combined. Under normal circumstances, we don't even need to do anything. The two of us are just decorations. When I work, I spend 9 out of 10 days helping to take care of the dog and the other day being a backdrop. I don't know music, and I can't play games well. To put it bluntly, I might not even be a match for curly hair. Feng Zhao always told us not to forget to improve ourselves. Improve ourselves? It sounded nice, but it was actually self-hypnosis. I told myself that during my tenure, I would take my exams, register for classes, train, and walk the dog. I would be a dutiful and responsible bodyguard? I felt a sense of emptiness and mediocrity. I don't have much ability. What little I have won't be of much use to Feng Zhao. I might as well go somewhere where I can use my abilities. I thought, My future life doesn't have to be spectacular, and I don't want to have a meteoric rise. No matter what, I have to do something meaningful, right? I might seem fine normally, but my current state isn't very good. I don't have any motivation, I don't have any fighting spirit, and I can't get excited. I feel like I'm living a life of retirement, eating, and waiting to die. I am clearly still very young. If I can't prove my worth, then what is the meaning of my life? Zhuyu remained silent for a while before saying, "You want to apply to return to the military?" "That's right." Yin Biao nodded. "Will the application be approved?" "I don't know. Even if I can't return, I still want to change jobs. It might be more tiring and the pay might be lower, but at least I will feel at ease when I receive the money. I just want to do something practical, something that is worthy of my salary." Zhuyu could tell that Yin Biao was really thinking things through calmly. This wasn't an impulsive decision. Perhaps he had been thinking about it for a long time. It was just that what he had seen and felt after arriving on planet Een had prompted him to make this final decision. "This is just my opinion. I won't mention it to Feng Zhao now. I will wait until the joint performance is over. I will also recommend a few people with good character to replace me." Yin Biao sighed. "I don't want to be a salted fish anymore. I need to reignite my fighting spirit. I also have to think about it properly," Zhuyu muttered. "It is time to think about it properly." Before going to bed, Yin Biao made a decision. "MMHM, it's decided. When the Planetine performance is over, I will go back and ask Feng Zhao for my resignation." Chapter 489. When Yin Biao saw Feng Zhao again the next day, he did not immediately tell him his decision. Now was the time to prepare for the performance. Feng Zhao's daily workload was very heavy, and he was very busy. Yin Biao would not say anything else that would interfere with Feng Zhao's work. Zhuyu had thought about it the entire night. He had an unnatural expression when he saw Feng Zhao today. Actually, he had also thought about resigning after hearing Yin Biao's words, but he hadn't been as resolute as Yin Biao. Yin Biao had been directly recruited by Feng Zhao, while Zhuyu had been assigned to Feng Zhao by Silver Wing. Even if he hadn't been Feng Zhao's bodyguard, he might have been assigned to another celebrity. However, the entertainment industry was complicated. Being around Feng Zhao was much simpler. Yin Biao was right. This couldn't go on. It would be hard to rise up after it became a habit. He didn't want to be a salted fish either. He hadn't thought about when he would resign because he didn't know what he would do after resigning. He would resign after thinking it through. The salted fish duo's expressions changed when they received the task of walking their dogs. Zhuyu felt a little guilty when he saw Feng Zhao because he also had thoughts of resigning. Feng Zhao's gaze swept across Yin Biao and Zhuayu's faces. He didn't say anything. After giving them the dog-walking assignment, he went to the Performing Arts Center to rehearse with the orchestra. He could tell that Yin Biao and Zhuayu were hiding something, but it probably wasn't anything important. He wouldn't probe further since they didn't want to talk about it. He would probably get an answer after the performance. Planet Yin's spaceport conducted a test on all the working dogs. Curly Hair's results were excellent, and he even broke many records. This made the inspection team at Planet Yin's spaceport feel both defeated and excited. Seeing that Yin Biao and Zhuayu weren't in a good mood, the inspection team's captain looked for them during their free time. Walking a dog is such a great thing. I can walk 10 of Curly Hair's dogs by myself. How obedient. And a small dog. A small dog is good. A small dog that doesn't bark or get irritable is even easier to walk. It's not that strong, so it's not tiring. If you guys are too busy to walk your dogs, we can help out. If you need help, just say it. Curly Hair was the only elite spaceport dogs that had better test results. They were willing to help with dog walking. If Yin Biao wasn't willing, there were plenty of people who were willing. There were even people who offered to walk around for a while, but Yin Biao and Li Yundong didn't agree. Although he didn't really like dog walking, Yin Biao still knew Curly Hair's value. Feng Zhao repeatedly exhorted them not to let anyone else help him escape, to not take their eyes off Curly Hair for even a moment, and to take turns keeping an eye on him even when he went to the toilet. Yin Biao had been completely brainwashed by Nanfeng. Everyone looked like they were stealing dogs. He felt that the people from Planet Een had ulterior motives. On the day of the joint performance, dogs weren't allowed inside the venue. Nanfeng needed to stay by Feng Zhao's side to prepare for the performance. Yin Biao and Zuoyu led Curly Hair to continue interacting with the inspection dogs at the spaceport. Yin Biao had mixed feelings. He took deep breaths as he walked out the door. This might be his last dog-walking mission before he resigned. When he returned from this mission, the performance would also be over. He didn't need to walk the dog anymore. That's great. Even if he resigned and changed jobs in the future, he would still have walked a dog worth nearly 300 million. For the past few nights, Yin Biao had been thinking about his future path. He had added another 10 pages to his career plan. From bodyguards, maintenance workers to teachers of youth interest classes, they had all thought about it. Anything was fine, but he wouldn't be walking the dog anymore. When Yin Biao led Curly Hair to Planet Yin's spaceport with Zuoyu, he discovered that something was amiss. There was an additional dog at the spaceport. It was a small dog similar in size to Curly Hair. It had brown markings, a narrow white stripe on its forehead, and glossy, long fur that looked like it had been meticulously cared for. Yin Biao looked over and saw that the inspection team members were smiling amiably. This dog is raised by an old professor on Planet Yin. It has a very high IQ and can be used as a pet dog. Its ability isn't inferior to that of a working dog. With that said, Yin Biao understood. This was a blind date. The boss hadn't even gotten one, but the dog had gotten one first. Although Yin Biao didn't like the job of walking dogs, he couldn't deny that Curly Hair was indeed impressive. No wonder so many people had designs on this dog. The people at the spaceport had only wanted to test whether Curly Hair was as smart as the rumors said, and whether his ability could surpass the best results of the inspection team's elite dogs. The test results had been arranged by the people at Planet Yin's spaceport. There had been no tampering and no possibility of cheating. Once Curly Hair's results and ability were determined, wouldn't the backup plan come in? How could the people at Planet Yin have allowed Feng Zhao to bring a dog over? They had even made such thorough arrangements and given the dog better equipment than their entourage. If they couldn't snatch a dog, they would fight for offspring. No wonder the inspection team had been feeling sorry for Curly Hair. They were feeling sorry that Curly Hair hadn't taken a liking to a dog in the platoon. Today was the day of the cultural joint performance. Feng Zhao would have to return once the performance ended. This bunch of people had gotten anxious and brought a dog over. Needless to say, this little dog was rather pretty. The dog leash around its neck was even more exquisite than other dogs. However, Nanfeng had said that Curly Hair had high standards. There were so many dogs in Muzhou, yet he hadn't taken a liking to Curly Hair. Back then, those dog slaves in Muzhou had wanted Curly Hair to have offspring in Muzhou, but they hadn't succeeded. Things might not go so smoothly here on Planet Yin. Of course, this matter had to be reported. Yin Biao immediately sent Feng Zhao a message and explained the situation. Boss, you have to think of a way or negotiate with the people at Planet Yin. Yin Biao indicated for Feng Zhao to seek more benefits from Planet Yin. When he glanced over at Curly Hair, he was stunned. Hey, boss, you have to hurry. Curly Hair's eyes are staring straight at you. Feng Zhao saw Curly Hair staring at the long-haired little dog in the distance through the photo Yin Biao sent over. After some thought, Feng Zhao zoomed in on the photo and observed the little dog. He discovered that the dog leash was made from a type of high-grade power ore. Feng Zhao rubbed his forehead and instructed Yin Biao and Zuoyu, keep an eye on Curly Hair. Don't let him lick randomly. Report immediately if there are any abnormalities. Understood. Yin Biao and Zuoyu felt that they understood their boss's intentions. Boss definitely wanted them to guard against the people at Planet Yin's spaceport trying to tempt the dog. Despicable. Even dogs aren't let off. Meanwhile, the inspection team at Planet Yin's spaceport felt that the situation had stabilized and were delighted. Curly Hair, who didn't understand the intentions of either side, looked at the dog in the distance. The dog's eyes were glued to the power or on the other party's neck. Curly Hair licked his nose and took a few steps forward. However, he recalled Feng Zhao's words and shrank back. Ha 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 ha, little Curly Hair is still shy. An inspection team member chuckled. Don't be shy. Hurry up and go. Curly Hair's clear eyes glanced at the inspection team member who was urging him to continue forward. He turned back to look at Yin Biao and Zhuayu. These two salted fishes didn't seem to have any intention of stopping Curly Hair. Curly Hair became bolder and raised his paw to approach the other dog. The inspection team members at Planet Yin Spaceport were excited when they saw this. They were afraid that they would disturb this blind date and did their best to suppress their laughter. A few members couldn't hold it in any longer and sent messages in their internal chat group. Steady, steady. Our Planet Yin dogs are better than Muzhou dogs. These words just don't sound pleasing to the ear. Who cares? It's good that we can succeed this time. This is a dog that defeated the elite team at Muzhou's Police Dog Academy. It also broke the record of our own elite dogs. It's even better than the latest security equipment. Its descendants will surely be outstanding. From their point of view, although Curly Hair was at the peak of his abilities, as he aged, all aspects of his abilities would decline. They had to nurture a batch of outstanding puppies before Curly Hair aged. Of course, the most important thing was that if they missed this opportunity, they wouldn't know where the next one would be. Fang Zhao would return once the performance was over. It wasn't that they hadn't thought of cloning, but cloning didn't mean that their abilities would be replicated. Too many failures had led them to choose natural breeding. At this moment, Curly Hair was less than 2 meters away from that dog. That fragrant power, or was even closer. Curly Hair licked the saliva at the corner of the dog's mouth. Without waiting for Curly Hair to continue approaching, the fur on the dog's body suddenly stood on end. The dog's entire body seemed to swell up. Then, like a rabbit, it leapt back a few steps and hid behind the inspection team members in fright. It even let out a sharp bark and trembled all over, looking extremely anxious and fearful. Everyone present. What happened? Yin Biao asked suspiciously. The salted fish duo exchanged glances and thought to themselves, are Planet Yin's pet dogs so cowardly? The inspection team members' faces also collapsed. What a pity. They hadn't expected the problem to be on their side. This dog was usually so arrogant when he was by the professor's side. Wasn't he just here for a blind date? Why was he so scared? It seemed like the blind date wasn't going to happen. Curly Hair's clear and innocent eyes continued to stare behind the inspection team members. When he realized that the other party was hiding too well, he shifted his gaze back to the inspection team members. A bit of saliva dripped from the corner of his mouth. Gurgle, gurgle. Curly Hair's stomach made a hungry sound, breaking the awkward atmosphere. Yin Biao was puzzled. Didn't you eat dog food before leaving this morning? Why are you so hungry again? One of the inspection team members chuckled. Haha, you must be hungry, right? This is what it means to be a feast for the eyes. Another team member corrected him. Isn't the term, feast for the eyes, a little inappropriate? The inspection team members weren't at ease because the dog was in a state of anxiety and fear. Seeing that the matter hadn't been resolved, they left with the dog. They still had a mission later and didn't have time to chat. Not long after, a small team from the inspection team began their mission for the day. Yin Biao and Zhuayu also brought Curly Hair along for an exchange. However, the interaction between the two parties was getting harder and harder. Every time Curly Hair wanted to approach, the inspection team's dogs would glance at him from afar and cautiously avoid him. Zhuayu said angrily, "This is isolation. It's cold-blooded violence." Yin Biao also agreed with Zhuayu's words. Planet Yin's dogs were xenophobic. However, this wasn't important to him. This was the only time they could walk the dog. After Fang Zhao's performance ended, it would be Nan Feng and Fang Zhao walking the dog. The two bodyguards wouldn't have anything to do anymore. He could also mention his resignation to Fang Zhao and recommend a few suitable people to take over his position. I will mention my resignation to the boss after walking the dog today. Chapter 490. The Planet Yin Joint Arts performance wasn't considered a major event on Planet Yin, but it was a rare entertainment event. Those who weren't on assignment or on vacation would come to watch it live. Those who couldn't make it could watch the live broadcast. The live broadcast was limited to certain regions of Planet Yin. People outside of Planet Inc. couldn't see it, and the recorded footage wouldn't be released online. Even if authoritative media outlets from Earth came to take photos, they had to go through a vetting process before they could be released online. Too many important people had to be protected and couldn't show their faces. A gold badge engineer like Yuan Zhang had a sensitive identity that couldn't be made public. He needed someone to protect him and hide his identity when traveling to Earth for an exchange or on vacation. Therefore, Feng Zhao and the other invited artists were once again reminded of the rules of confidentiality. The audience entered the venue one after another. Little Bear had originally come with Gooden and Goshing, but the Robo-Dog couldn't enter the venue and could only stay outside. Little Bear himself entered the venue to watch the performance. Recently, no one had been bothering him. He had run over to watch Feng Zhao and the orchestra rehearse a few times out of boredom. As long as that dog wasn't around, he didn't know what the word scared meant. Besides Little Bear, Feng Zhao's diehard fan, second-generation Yuan Zhang, wouldn't miss this performance either. He had come along with a few older engineers from the Research Institute. Yuan Zhang had even brought along a gift he had made for Feng Zhao. The fleet model he had made had been detained during security checks and had only been given out as a spare part. He had actually only given out a spare part as a gift to his idol. It was a huge regret in his career as an idol chaser. Therefore, he had taken some time to make a complete model. Although it couldn't compare to the fleet model he had made previously, and there was only one of it, it had finally passed the numerous security checks. He had to deliver it before Feng Zhao left. He had heard that the invited artists would be leaving after the performance. There were a few older people sitting next to Yuan Zhang. They weren't all interested in the performance. They were here for their children, who were going to perform on stage. Our kid is also going to perform. He usually looks rough. I wonder how well he can play the piano. My granddaughter is going on stage too. We have to take more photos later. Are you guys talking about the performance Feng Zhao is participating in? Someone in the front row asked. Feng Zhao? I know him too. He's the composer who played the game Founding Era and is very good at it, right? Yes. This time, it's a song that Feng Zhao adapted. You should have heard it before. It's the longest song at the end of Founding Era. I can't remember what it's called. It's not easy. That song is called Legend. The original version is very difficult. Can these girls play it well? Maybe Feng Zhao lowered the difficulty when he edited it. I wonder how it compares to the original version. Nonsense. The difficulty did not decrease. It definitely hasn't been lowered, a parent stubbornly said. In fact, in his heart, he was thinking that as long as the performance of his child's performance was still acceptable, he would brag as much as he could. In any case, he wasn't a professional, so there was no need to have such high expectations. Besides, he didn't understand whether the music was difficult or not, and whether it had meaning. There were many people waiting behind the stage. Feng Zhao's program was ranked third, closer to the front. At this moment, even the most lively members of the band were quiet. The young man who was always talking about Zither Duel and Duel wiped the sweat off his forehead and took a deep breath. Nervous. Very nervous. There were many elders present. His family knew that he was going to perform on stage. Almost everyone who could come had come. If he messed up, not only would he drag the band down, but he would also lose face in front of everyone. What would he do? This loss wouldn't just be a loss of face for his own family. It would also affect Planet Yin's reputation. He turned to look at the others. Very good. It's all the same. The brother sitting by the wall looked calm on the surface, but his fingers had already tapped his knee for the umpteenth time. His heart wasn't calm. Then he looked at Feng Zhao. Big brother Zhao, are you nervous? A young man asked. I'm not nervous, Feng Zhao replied. The others looked over and carefully studied Feng Zhao's expression. They couldn't tell whether his calmness was fake or not. Artists who were invited for the first time, even some of the older artists, would have huge emotional fluctuations when faced with the audience. It wasn't necessarily because they were timid, but because they were overly excited or worried about personal gains and losses that affected their performance. Some people guessed that Feng Zhao was definitely nervous. However, regardless of what Feng Zhao was really thinking, at least Feng Zhao appeared calm on the surface. This calmed everyone down. After a few days of rehearsal, the standard of their performance couldn't be considered perfect. However, compared to when they first started, they had improved a lot. They were all youngsters, so it was easy for conflicts to arise when they were emotional. However, because Fang Zhao was standing there, the orchestra didn't get into a mess. It was almost time for the performance. The staff backstage called out to the orchestra to get ready. String section, woodwind section, brass section, percussion section, special section, the entire orchestra, including Fang Zhao, changed their hairstyles and costumes within 10 minutes. Fang Zhao took some time to contact Yin Biao again. After confirming that curly hair was fine, he focused on the upcoming performance. Fang Zhao smiled as he glanced at the nervous orchestra members waiting to go on stage. What he loved the most was the glow in the eyes of this group of children when they performed. If they didn't truly love music, they wouldn't be able to express such emotions during their performance. Perform seriously. All of you are the best, Fang Zhao said to the orchestra. Of course. The orchestra members straightened their backs. This group of people had the best performing skills among their peers. If they weren't outstanding enough, how could they have been selected to perform on stage? If they weren't the best, then who was? No. Yes. People. Afraid? Non-existent. It was all a misconception. How could Planet Yin have such emotions as fear? It was just that they hadn't adjusted their state of mind. The group of people had been suppressing their emotions and had been waiting for the stage to release them. But when they really got on stage, their minds were empty. Even if their hands had trembled due to nervousness and their expressions had been stiff due to their imaginations, it had become a conditioned reflex when they touched the instruments. What supported them was still the true passion in their hearts. Fang Zhao solemnly picked up the conductor's baton and went on stage with the orchestra members. This performance wasn't considered grand or extravagant, but it was an extremely special one. Many of the audience members might not be known to outsiders for their entire lives. No matter how great the honor, it could only be made public after many years. And the youngsters here had also chosen this path. Orchestra conductors all had their own styles. Some were cold on the outside but warm on the inside, hiding all their passion in their hearts. Some exposed their emotions and used even more exaggerated body movements to convey their emotions. Fang Zhao was very calm when he conducted. All his passion was already in the score and transmitted through this group of young, non-professional performers. When he had participated in Immerse's composition, Fang Zhao had looked at people from the period of destruction. But this time, when he had adapted legend, he had looked at people from the new era. Because the target was different, the mood when composing was different. Immerse's legend talked about the past. Fang Zhao's adapted legend talked about the present and the future. It had started from the old era, passed through the long period of destruction, and arrived at the present 500 years later. It was just like a tired bird that had found a branch to rest on after drifting for a long time. It watched as the tree withered and came back to life. Under the laws of nature, green and yellow slipped away, leaves fluttered, and the old and the new alternated. After waiting for a long time, it was finally time for it to blossom. How gratifying! There were many people on Planet Yin, but in Fang Zhao's eyes, they were still children. They were too young. On Planet Yin, besides the second-generation breaker, genius engineer Yuan Zhang, there were many other outstanding youngsters. The us of the past belonged to history, while the present belonged to the future. They belonged to the distant. They belonged to the sea of stars. Those high-spirited youngsters, those geniuses who had appeared out of nowhere, brought along some immature impetuousness and quick-wittedness, and carried a will as sharp as the edge of a blade as they whizzed through the tides of the era. The youngsters of the period of destruction might have been on the brink of collapse, silently repressed. Perhaps they might have sunk into hysterical madness, unbridled. Or perhaps they might have broken through the shackles in their hearts and created a legendary life. Regardless of the situation, they faced a constant threat to their survival. And the children of Planet Yin no longer needed to face that. They loved the stars, loved the fleets that traveled, had a universe in their hearts, and faced dreams and the future. This was another legend. Each era had its own theme, and each generation had its own mission. Life was hurried, but it wouldn't be indifferent because it was hurried. Holding a torch and facing the wind, they would begin the magnificent movement of life. The door to an expedition had already been opened, and the entire world was throbbing with excitement for them. Walk forward resolutely, walk forward bravely. Beneath your feet is the universe of stars, and in front of you is limitless dreams, limitless expectations, countless possibilities. Thoughts flew at a speed exceeding 300,000 kilometers per second. What they encountered was a future that couldn't be described on paper and pen. This was a dazzling era, torch inheritance. Stars twinkled. The past had passed, and the future had arrived. Chapter 491. Tomorrow afternoon update? Future Heavenly King, Gu, currently typing. Please wait a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 492. Feng Zhao's version of Legend was youthful and full of energy. What shocked the audience wasn't the earth-shattering drumbeats, but the power hidden within the music. Every tone and every note seemed to contain countless emotions. Listening carefully, the music was patient, impetuous, and even more pleasantly surprised. Just like the group of youngsters performing on stage. Even though they didn't have the perfect technique of a professional performer, they were able to produce a melody that left people moved to tears. It feels like my heart is beating along with the earth. This is very different from the original version of Legend I listened to when I was binge-watching. However, it's still very impressive. I like both versions, but I personally prefer Feng Zhao's version. It's not that I don't respect great Master Mo Lang, but I feel that Feng Zhao's version is more suitable for our planet Yin. Right. Only planet Yin can experience that kind of emotion. Feng Zhao's version of Legend lacks the historical heaviness. It has more excitement and industrial feel. Unlike the rational analysis of the audience, the parents who had come to support the performance were excited. They might not be able to understand the deeper meaning behind the song, but they could tell the quality of the performance. Furthermore, everyone was praising it. If everyone said it was good, then it was definitely good. It didn't embarrass Planet Yin. The parents picked up their communication devices and sent messages to those who couldn't watch the performance. Brag wildly. They had to brag about the performance of their children to their colleagues and friends. Right. Also, their relatives on Earth had to know. Even though they couldn't send photos or show videos, they could just listen to their descriptions. After the orchestra's performance ended, the students forced themselves to bow and leave. When they reached backstage, many students were on the verge of collapsing. Their legs were trembling. After a short burst of concentration, they suddenly relaxed. It was as if they had lost all their strength. One student almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, someone beside him supported him. When they had completely relaxed, the students gathered around to watch the recording. I actually played so well. A student was moved to tears by his own performance. That was a superb performance. Superb. The flute player beside him was pleasantly surprised. He was very satisfied with his performance. This isn't the work of just a few of you. This is the work of all of us. If even one of us made a mistake, we wouldn't be able to achieve this result. Perfect. Someone else said, "No, I have to ask the organizers if they can extract the audio. I want to save it and play it as a single. I want the video. I want to apply for a cut of that performance. I can brag about that performance for at least another 10 years. The younger students were so excited that they couldn't even speak coherently, especially those who had just received red packets from their parents. They almost screamed. One of the younger students quickly accepted the electronic red packets sent by the elders and said, "I hope we can do this a few more times." Although the rehearsal was hard, it was still very rewarding. "Oh right, where's Brother Zhao? I want to ask him when he will come again. Is it once a year? Or once every few years?" He was called away by the art troupe. After the program had ended, Fang Zhao had just returned backstage when he was called over by a member of the art troupe. The invited artists were gathered together. Those who had already finished the program were much more relaxed. Seeing Fang Zhao arrive, an old artist smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Not bad, not bad. Old Mo must be very satisfied with your performance. No wonder Mo Lang specifically asked you to revise it and didn't allow anyone else to interfere. Originally, they had thought that Mo Lang would definitely help Fang Zhao out in private. However, after listening to the revised version of Legend, they could tell that even if Mo Lang had helped, it wasn't by much. There wasn't much of Mo Lang in this. They could tell that it was Legend, but the style and performance were completely different. They could tell that Mo Lang had put in a lot of effort. It was precisely because they understood that they were in awe of Fang Zhao's capabilities. Many youngsters would feel constrained when adapting the masterpieces of their predecessors. They would be overcautious and hesitant. In the end, they wouldn't even look at the revised version. Fang Zhao was a successful example. Fang Zhao chatted with a few of the old artists. They were all people who had already finished the program and were in a more relaxed mood. They even chatted about when the Planetine performance was over and when they would get together and have a good chat. There were too many restrictions on Planetine, so they didn't dare speak too much. As they were chatting, the door to the lounge suddenly opened and a figure rushed in, heading straight for the bag on the sofa. Meyer, did you lose something? One of the old artists asked. The person who had just rushed in was the dance master from the troupe, Ms. Meyer. Meyer's performance was going to start in less than 15 minutes. I can't find my bracelet. I clearly confirmed that it was with my costume this morning. I was just about to change into my costume when I realized that I couldn't find my bracelet. It's not in this bag either. Meyer's bracelet was custom-made for the program she was going to perform and would enhance the performance. However, she hadn't expected that she wouldn't be able to find her bracelet at the crucial moment. You still haven't found it? Did you leave it in the dance studio? One of the old artists asked. Let me go look again. Meyer was so anxious that she wanted to tear the bag apart, but she still couldn't find it. She could only head to the dance studio to take a look. She had indeed gone there in the morning. Where's your assistant? Someone asked. Don't mention it. There's a small problem with a button. My assistant want to fix it. The dance studio isn't far. I'll go look again. I'll go, Fang Zhao said as he got up. I'll go take a look at the dance studio. The others agreed. Yes, let Xiao Fang search the dance studio. Youngsters run fast. Meyer, hurry up and change your costume. Try to find another bracelet to replace it. Be prepared. Sure. Thank you, Xiao Fang. Meyer told Fang Zhao the location of the dance studio and handed him the access card. Fang Zhao didn't waste any more time and ran to the dance studio. Rehearsals weren't in the same place as the performance venue. The venue was heavily guarded, and it took Fang Zhao some time to get through the security check before he reached the dance studio Meyer had mentioned. However, he didn't find Meyer's bracelet there. He called Meyer over the communicator and told her what had happened. Over the communicator, Meyer's voice was full of anxiety and frustration. Unable to find her original bracelet, Meyer could only replace it at the last minute. But the performance was flawed, and it couldn't achieve the effect that Meyer had wanted. It was like a violinist switching to a bow that didn't suit him. It wasn't as good as the original. As an experienced dancer, Meyer couldn't casually leave important items around. Carelessness was something that rarely happened to her. Right now, Meyer was probably wondering who had tricked her without saying a word. Pranks were common, but this was Planetine. While they might play pranks during rehearsals, which student would dare to pull such a stunt at such a crucial time? Planet Yin's punishment was rather severe. After ending the call, Fang Zhao was about to leave the dance studio. But before he left, he turned around and glanced at the two open windows of the dance studio, intending to close them. Footsteps could be heard coming from the elevator. Brother Zhao. Yuan Zhang rushed over with a box in his arms. After finding out that Fang Zhao had left the performance venue, Yuan Zhang had felt that this was a good opportunity to give Fang Zhao a gift. Fang Zhao had run too fast. Yuan Zhang had been worried that he wouldn't be able to bump into Fang Zhao. Luckily, he had managed to catch up. This time, Yuan Zhang hadn't brought any security personnel with him. He hadn't let them know when he left the performance venue. He still had a lot to say to Feng Zhao, and didn't want to be interrupted halfway through. How did you know I was here? Feng Zhao's expression darkened. Where are the soldiers in charge of your safety? Yuan Zhang swallowed the words he had prepared when he met Feng Zhao's stern gaze. He opened his mouth and was about to say something when he was forcefully pulled to the side by Feng Zhao. Bang! A bullet pierced through the wall behind Yuan Zhang. Feng Zhao pulled Yuan Zhang along in an extremely short period of time and dodged to find cover. Yuan Zhang was dumbfounded by this sudden turn of events. He glanced at the bullet mark on the wall. If Feng Zhao hadn't pulled him, he probably would have lost half his head. Brother Zhao. Yuan Zhang's face paled as he looked at the bloodstains on Feng Zhao's clothes. His voice was trembling, and he was on the verge of tears. There were two snipers. Just now, there were two bullets. One of them dodged and hit the wall. The other had been blocked by Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao made a shu gesture, indicating that Yuan Zhang shouldn't make a sound or move. The alarm hadn't sounded. It was obvious that someone had tampered with the alarm beforehand. However, Planet Een definitely had other means of investigation. Someone would be rushing over soon. The dance studio's windows were one way. It wasn't possible to see what was going on inside from the outside. It seemed like someone wanted Yuan Zhang's life and had been planning this for a long time. Feng Zhao quickly analyzed the situation and looked at the injuries on his body. Yuan Zhang, who had been blocked at the back, was filled with regret. He shouldn't have come here alone. Although he had been constantly reminded to pay attention to safety and to bring people along when traveling, he had let his guard down because nothing had happened. He pressed the emergency call button in his hand. There was no response. It had been blocked. Yuan Zhang was also very worried about Feng Zhao's injury. It was in his abdomen. He didn't know the extent of his internal injuries. He had to be treated as soon as possible. As he was worrying, Yuan Zhang saw Feng Zhao frown and remove the bullet from the wound with his bare hands. Yuan Zhang. Big bro, don't be reckless. Yuan Zhang had minored in firearms. Young boys loved guns. Yuan Zhang had wanted to experience what it felt like to be shot when he was in his second year of middle school. He had even secretly experimented with it. When he had been shot in the chest by a normal bullet while wearing a bulletproof vest, he had fallen to the ground. Because of the adrenaline rush, his leg had been throbbing in pain. He had felt like a few of his ribs had been broken, and he had lain in pain for a long time. Although he had found out later that it had all been an illusion and that it was just pain, the physical pain had been secondary. The psychological panic had persisted for a long time. With great difficulty, he had walked out of the trauma with the help of a psychiatrist. After that, he had burrowed into the laboratory to research engines. Later on, he had still been interested in firearms. When he had free time, he would research all sorts of firearms, but he wouldn't play real-life shooting games. He also wouldn't join his peers in paintball. The psychological trauma from his second year of middle school was a constant reminder of the pain of being hit by a bullet. Now, seeing this ruthless person in front of him who had removed a bullet with his bare hands, Yuan Zhang was so shocked that he almost jumped up. Pain was one thing. Don't aggravate the injury. However, right after that, Yuan Zhang saw the bullet that Feng Zhao had removed from the wound. The pointed bullet had already cracked and deformed, turning into a flower. Seeing this flower, Yuan Zhang's mind went blank for a moment, but very quickly, he started thinking again. If he wasn't wrong, he had studied this kind of bullet not long ago. Specially made bullets had strong penetrative power. Even if 3 to 5 people were stacked in front of them, the bullet would still be able to penetrate it easily, let alone a single person. Even light armor couldn't withstand it, let alone a human. Just looking at the bullet hole that had pierced through the wall, one could tell how strong the penetrative power was. These core engineers who were protected usually wore at least 3 layers of nano-bulletproof vests when they went out. Today, Yuan Zhang had also worn one. As long as they weren't shot in the head, they could basically block the impact of more than 70% of the blasters and live ammunition. It wouldn't cause them any fatal injuries. Furthermore, Planet Yin's strict management made it extremely difficult to assassinate a heavily protected core engineer on Planet Yin. Since the other party had been able to successfully make a move at this time, it was clear that they had planned it carefully. They had definitely taken into account the bulletproof vests they were wearing and couldn't have used ordinary bullets. But, in front of him, Fang Zhao had blocked a bullet all by himself. One person. Yuan Zhang panicked. Fang Zhao's injuries? The bloodstains on Fang Zhao's clothes seemed to have stopped spreading. No more bleeding? He looked at Fang Zhao again. Although his breathing was light, it was steady and his complexion was normal. If not for the bloodstains on his clothes, Yuan Zhang wouldn't have been able to tell that he was the one who had been shot. In comparison, Yuan Zhang's pale face looked more like the one who had been shot. Yuan Zhang suspected that he was hallucinating. He had studied the destructive effects of various bullets on the human body. He had studied the shape, mass, and speed of the bullet. In his mind, he was worried about Fang Zhao's injuries, doubtful about what he was seeing, and recalling his theoretical knowledge and experimental data. Yuan Zhang had already lost his intelligence. Besides a squad of soldiers standing guard outside Fang Zhao's ward, Nanfeng was also guarding the door. He had only left for a short while when he heard that something had happened to Fang Zhao. He had been so scared that his legs had turned to jelly. Nanfeng didn't know why the people of Planet Yin had isolated Fang Zhao and didn't allow him to visit. He could only speak through the communications device. Regardless, Nanfeng was determined to guard this place. Since he couldn't get in touch with Yin Biao, Nanfeng sent them a message and told them to come back as soon as possible. Nanfeng was in the middle of a call with Fang Zhao when the two senior executives arrived. Because there were people watching, they didn't dare say too much. They only asked if Fang Zhao's injuries were serious. "Boss, don't lie to me. You can't fool me. After losing so much blood and dyeing your clothes red, you must be very weak. Although your voice sounds full of energy, I know you are just putting on an act." Nanfeng was thinking about how to get Fang Zhao something to eat to replenish his blood. As a self-proclaimed all-round assistant, Nanfeng felt that he had failed in his duties this time and had let down his high salary. He had to make up for it. He had to take good care of his boss when he was weak. The two senior executives thought to themselves when they heard Nanfeng's words. Weak? If he was sent any later, his wounds would have scabbed over. If they hadn't forced Fang Zhao to stay, he would have long since disappeared. In the ward, Fang Zhao fell silent as he listened to Nanfeng's voice. This assistant was very good, but he was too imaginative. Fang Zhao ended the call and looked over when he saw the two senior officers enter. The visitor's expression softened as he pondered how to get more information from Fang Zhao. Before he could open his mouth, an urgent call came in. "We know the fifth target," the person who picked up the call said. "Who?" the other person asked. The former looked at Fang Zhao. Fang Zhao, he suddenly had an ominous premonition. A certain large warehouse on Planet Yin base. Planet Yin's warehouses were like fortresses. Apart from being protected from storms, they also prevented accidental damage during military exercises or testing of new products. There was a field practice area not far from this warehouse. In the past, there had been an incident of a newbie accidentally blowing up a warehouse during practice. Yin Biao and Zhuo Yu followed the inspection team when they walked their dogs. Because they were ostracized by the other dogs, Yin Biao and Zhuo Yu only brought curly hair to the back of the group. Fortunately, the inspection team took good care of them and didn't treat them coldly. Curly hair was too ostracized by the other dogs. Yin Biao and Zhuo Yu could only follow the team from a distance. Furthermore, there were some places they couldn't go. When the inspection team went to patrol the warehouse, they would wait outside. Today was the same. When they went to patrol the warehouse, the inspection team would enter the warehouse to carry out their mission. They would wait outside the warehouse and admire Planet Yin's fortress-like warehouse at the same time. However, at this moment, the gate that had been opened during the day suddenly closed. It completely separated Yin Biao and Zhuo Yu from the inspection team. "Quick, hide." There's a mecha running out from the warehouse. This was the important information the inspection team had left behind for Yin Biao and Zuoyu. Afterwards, the signal was cut off. All that was left was static. They couldn't get in touch with the inspection team, the warehouse guards, or the people at the nearby sentry posts. At the same time, many of the gates in this warehouse had malfunctioned. There was only one way out. At this moment, footsteps could be heard coming from the main door. Heavy, mechanical footsteps. An assault mecha? Why would an assault mecha appear in a place like this warehouse? Yin Biao and Zuoyu felt their scalps go numb with just a quick glance. What had they done wrong to be chased by such a monster? I heard that a malfunctioning mecha was transferred over from the warehouse this morning. It will be sent for maintenance. Zuoyu quickly recalled the information in his head. That thing's firepower is too strong. The guns in our hands can't even graze the opponent's skin. We won't even be able to run. Yin Biao felt a wave of despair. He had only planned on resigning after walking the dogs one last time. Who knew they would encounter something like this? Zuoyu remembered that the anti-smuggling team had mentioned that the doors of the empty warehouses were automatically closed and could be manually operated. Let's go. Let's go over there first and find a large warehouse to hide in. Planet Yin's team's reaction is very fast. Since the inspection team already knows that something has happened here, they will definitely send people over. We just need to buy some time, and we will be safe. That's the only way. Yin Biao called for Curly Hair and ran with Zuoyu towards a larger warehouse. Curly Hair licked his nose and looked outside. He remembered Feng Zhao's warning and followed Yin Biao and Zuoyu inside. Yin Biao and Zuoyu didn't notice Curly Hair's reaction as they were in a hurry to escape. The warehouse they had chosen was rectangular and had two heavy doors separating it from the outside. Zuoyu closed the outer door and didn't stop. He immediately ran inside. As they ran, Zuoyu said, "That mecha outside should have been sent to the repair station for maintenance. Normally, such mechas are under strict control and can't be moved around easily. The one in the warehouse is a malfunctioning one. Perhaps its armor-piercing laser cannon is broken?" As soon as he finished speaking, boom! A large hole was easily blasted through the outer door. Curly Hair faced the mecha that was blasting through the door and barked, "Woof, woof, woof. Woof my ass." Yin Biao crouched down and picked up the dog. Zuoyu quickly closed the thick door of the inner warehouse to block the shots from the mecha's blaster. After the inner warehouse door was closed, Zuoyu and Yin Biao moved further in. There really wasn't a way out this time. "What the fuck did you do to actually attract an assault mecha?" Zuoyu roared. "I didn't fucking do anything. Think about what you did." Yin Biao roared back. "I can't think of anything." "Then why did the mecha only block us?" After a momentary silence, Yin Biao and Zuoyu lowered their heads and looked at Curly Hair. Curly Hair was listening to his surroundings when he sensed their gazes. His clear and innocent dog eyes were filled with doubt. Who would go to such great lengths to kill Curly Hair? Zuoyu was puzzled. Curly Hair's test results are too outstanding. He's even more useful than the security system. If he can make the people at Planet Yin Spaceport spend so much effort on him, he will definitely attract people with bad intentions. Security systems aren't installed everywhere, but Curly Hair can go anywhere. The person who attacked probably felt threatened. If they don't get rid of Curly Hair, many people won't feel at ease. I understand that logic, but why would they use a mecha to kill a dog? Zuoyu couldn't understand. Because Curly Hair runs too fast? Is it hard to catch up? Or perhaps this dog-killing operation was just an impromptu idea, and the preparations were rushed. Regardless of what the culprit was planning, there was no point in thinking about it. The current situation was that the other party wanted to kill the dog behind closed doors. They simply had nowhere to retreat to. They were truly isolated and without help. It would be difficult to even leave behind a last word. Would they be able to survive against an assault mecha with such powerful firepower? They would be blasted to smithereens the moment they appeared. Planet Yin's reaction is very fast. Reinforcements might have already arrived. We just need to delay for a little more time. Yin Biao gritted his teeth. We can only stake it all. At least wait until reinforcements arrive. Curly Hair stood guard at the door and snorted anxiously. He glanced at Zui Yu and Yin Biao before looking at the door. Look, little curly hair still can't bear to part with us. Yin Biao carried curly hair away from the door and patted curly hair's head. I know you are smart. Find a corner to hide in first. You must hide well later. When the door is breached and the crossfire starts, find a gap to escape. Got it? Yin Biao didn't believe that curly hair could evade the assault mecha's powerful firepower, nor did he believe that curly hair was smart enough to understand everything. He could only hope for luck. He hoped that curly hair's luck would be good, and he would be able to find a gap to escape. Curly hair continued snorting, but this time, his snorts were even more urgent. You finally know fear? Yin Biao sighed. Who asked you to be so strong? To actually attract such a pursuit? Curly hair is still worth protecting, right? Zui Yu suddenly chuckled. At this time, the two of them had already analyzed the current situation and understood that they couldn't escape. They could only create more opportunities for curly hair to survive. While Yin Biao and Zui Yu were planning how to deal with the situation, they didn't realize that something was missing from the collar around curly hair's neck. Curly hair was already starting to move restlessly. Outside the inner door, a small, round personal terminal lay quietly between the outer and inner door. This had been dropped when Yin Biao had carried curly hair and retreated hastily. Such a small thing wouldn't attract the slightest bit of attention. One of the assault mecha's large and heavy mechanical feet stepped on it. Crack. The sound of something shattering was almost inaudible against the footsteps of the mobile armor. Curly hair, who was staring straight at the door of the warehouse, suddenly trembled. He stood there in a daze. Every strand of fur froze, and his eyes glazed over as if he had received a huge shock. Yin Biao thought that curly hair was afraid and hurriedly moved the motionless curly hair to a corner. Yin Biao checked his gun, took a deep breath, and said to Zui Yu, Comrade Salted Fish number 1? Zui Yu smiled bitterly. Comrade Salted Fish number 2. Finally not a salted fish. Boom. The inner warehouse's thickened door was finally blasted open. However, before Zui Yu and Yin Biao could move, a silhouette shot out from the inner warehouse. It instantly swelled up, and the cold gleam of metal was dazzling. Under the heat wave created by the armor-piercing laser, countless irregularly moving air currents surged forward with a sharp and cold feeling. Clang-clang, creak, bang. The ear-piercing sound of metal breaking and the vibrations of armor hitting the ground made one's heart tremble. Sparks flew everywhere, and fragments flew everywhere. The scene was extremely violent. On both sides of the damaged inner warehouse door that had been bombarded by the cannons, Yin and Zua, who had courageously died, had shocked expressions on their faces, as if their worldview had collapsed. They both retracted their legs that were about to take a step forward and simultaneously lowered their presence. In the hearts of the two salted fish team, my boss's dog has transformed. Chapter 494. Yin Biao's mind was in a mess, and he was roaring internally. Is that the dog I usually walk? How can that demonic creature that can knock out an assault mecha in one move be called a dog? Such a small and obedient curly hair. Is that a fucking dog? Is that so? Apart from the initial ferocious scene of the creature transforming and knocking out the mecha, Yin Biao didn't even dare to take another look. He hid himself in the shadows between the warehouse door and the wall. He had experience. During his military service on planet Baiji, every time he went out on a mission and encountered creatures that were extremely difficult to deal with, he didn't have to be curious or show off. Hiding himself and his teammates was the most important thing. Don't let them notice you. It was the same now. Yin Biao also hid himself. This was a conditioned reflex from his accumulated experience. Who knew if that berserk creature would hit them as well? Then, Yin Biao realized that Zui Yu was still peeking. Zui Yu's eyelids kept twitching, probably because he saw something extremely shocking. Just by listening to the sounds, he knew that the battle was intense. Yin Biao didn't dare to imagine this scene. After another 10 seconds, Everything calmed down. To Yin Biao and Zuoyu, it was just a few breaths, but they felt like they had experienced an extremely dangerous test of survival. The warehouse quietened down again. Yin Biao and Zuoyu's breathing became so soft that it was almost inaudible. Zuoyu took a quick glance outside the door with a strange expression. Yin Biao looked at Zuoyu and asked silently, "Is it over?" "I don't know." Zuoyu moved his lips, but no sound came out. "Is that thing a dog?" Yin Biao asked again. "I think so." Zuoyu's expression became even more strange. Yin Biao was speechless at Zuoyu's reply. He couldn't help but look outside the door. On the potholed ground, a small dog was lying there. There wasn't a single injury on its body, but it was sobbing. It looked weak, helpless, and pitiful. Besides this dog, there was nothing else. The mecha was nowhere to be seen. Not even a fragment could be seen. It was as if the ferocious scene and all the sounds he had heard were all hallucinations. Yin Biao shot a doubtful look at Zuoyu. Zuoyu was stupefied. Buzz buzz. The communication device signal returned to normal. The anti-smuggling team had been contacted, and the rescue team had also arrived. Yin Biao's heart was still hanging in the air. He stared at the dog lying there vigilantly, afraid that when the rescue team arrived, the dog would suddenly attack them. The control of the gate and all the doors in the warehouse returned to normal. A group of soldiers and 2 members of the anti-smuggling team ran over. "Are you guys okay? Where's the assault mecha?" This warehouse's internal and external doors were all created by the assault mecha's armor-piercing laser cannons. But what's with the holes in the ground and walls? Do you two know? Yin Biao and Zuoyu remained silent when the leading soldier came over to ask questions. They only shook their heads and said nothing. How was he supposed to make this up? How could he make it up? He couldn't possibly tell the truth, right? They themselves did not understand. They had to see Feng Zhao first. Otherwise, they would not speak. When the 2 inspection team members arrived and saw that Yin Biao and Zuoyu were safe, they headed straight for Curly Hair. "Little Curly Hair? What's going on?" the anti-smuggling squad member asked. Yin and Zuo remained silent. The anti-smuggling squad member glanced at them unhappily and squatted down to pat Curly Hair gently. They had thought that they had become familiar with Curly Hair over the past few days. "You must be scared, right?" The 2 inspection team members' faces were full of heartache. "Curly Hair, don't be afraid. Let's go. I'll bring you out." Curly Hair was still lying there, crying like a weak pet dog. Yin Biao and Zuoyu. The 2 inspection team members felt even more heartache. Sigh, seems like he was really frightened. One of the inspection team members picked Curly Hair up from the ground. Curly Hair was crying and kicking his legs as though he was resisting. The inspection team member laughed when he saw this. "The little dog's legs are quite strong. Seems like he's in good spirits. Nothing serious." Yin Biao and Zuoyu, who were standing 10 steps away, looked at Curly Hair with complicated expressions. They took a deep breath and braced themselves as they approached to take Curly Hair. After all, the dog was theirs. Walking the dog was their mission. Even if something violent happened, it should be the 2 of them and not the inspection team. However, the inspection team member, who didn't know what Yin Biao and Zuoyu were thinking, was full of resentment. Avoiding Yin Biao's outstretched hand, the inspection team member said, "Stand to the side. I'll carry him." "Thank you," Yin Biao and Zuoyu said sincerely. The inspection team member sneered in his heart. These 2 bodyguards aren't good enough. They don't even know how to walk a dog properly. From the inspection team's point of view, something serious must have happened in the warehouse. Yin Biao and Zuoyu definitely knew something but were unwilling to say anything for some reason. However, that was Yin Biao and Zuoyu's business and had nothing to do with Curly Hair. Since it had nothing to do with Curly Hair, they had to pacify the frightened dog first. It was rare to see such an outstanding dog. They couldn't let it be traumatized and affect its ability to work in the future. Although Curly Hair was a pet dog now, no one could say for sure in the future. This sort of dog had to belong on the spaceport. Yin Biao and Zuoyu were led away. The inspection team had them wait in a lounge and restricted their range of activity. After everyone left, Yin Biao looked around the lounge. He didn't discover any listening devices, but that didn't mean there weren't any. To be safe, he didn't ask too directly. What's wrong? Yin Biao asked. Zuiyu knew that Yin Biao was asking about what had happened and didn't say anything. He only used his eyes to convey, "You don't know?" Yin Biao shook his head. He only knew the beginning and the end. He really couldn't guess the process. Zuiyu's face was wooden. He didn't know what kind of expression to put on anymore. He sighed heavily. Yin Biao raised his eyebrows and shot him a puzzled look. Zuiyu's gaze swept over to the refreshments on the table. He picked up a piece of bread and smacked it flat. Then, with a sinister expression, he tore it in two and swallowed it cleanly. Then, he licked the crumbs that had fallen off bit by bit. After the demonstration, Zuiyu's expressionless face returned. His eyes indicated, "That's it." Yin Biao rubbed his face hard to calm himself down. However, the roar in his heart intensified. That was an assault mecha. Such thick skin. How could it be torn apart so easily? Such a huge mecha was eaten clean just like that. Where did it go to eat? Not even a single part was left. No one would suspect it. The more he thought about it, the more terrifying it was. Yin Biao wondered if Curly Hair had also swallowed a lot of things when they weren't aware, including humans. They were practically using their lives to walk a dog. Yin Biao felt a chill down his spine when he thought about how they usually stroked the dog. He had to thank Curly Hair for not eating it. However, he thought about it again. What exactly was Curly Hair? Was he an extraterrestrial organism? Did Boss know that Curly Hair could transform? Logically, Yin Biao believed that given Fang Zhao's intelligence and cautiousness, he would definitely understand Curly Hair's situation. Now, thinking back to what Fang Zhao had said to them when they were walking or looking after the dog, Yin Biao broke out in a cold sweat. In the lounge, Yin Biao and Zuiyu's hearts were in turmoil. However, they appeared to be in a daze and sat there in silence. Until Nanfeng's voice rang out. Fang Zhao couldn't contact Yin Biao and Zuiyu, so he contacted the inspection team and got Nanfeng to fetch them. The inspection team asked for permission from the higher-ups and allowed Nanfeng to come over. The first thing Nanfeng did when he arrived was to snatch Curly Hair back from the inspection team. When Nanfeng entered the lounge, he hugged Curly Hair and pacified him. His gaze swept over Yin Biao and Zuiyu. He had already heard from the inspection team that the two of them were safe and sound. After confirming with his own eyes, he was relieved. At this moment, all of Nanfeng's intelligence was focused on this dog that was worth close to 300 million. As for his comrades, weren't his comrades standing by the side? They weren't even injured. Seeing Yin Biao and Zuiyu staring blankly at him, Nanfeng frowned and urged them. "What are you waiting for? Let's go. Hurry up and go see boss." Yin Biao, "No. Comrades, I have something to say." Yin Biao's lips twitched, but he swallowed his words. All he did was look at Nanfeng, who was hugging the dog, with an indescribable expression. Nanfeng didn't know that the two of them were worried about his safety. He carried the dog and led Yin Biao and Zuiyu back from the inspection team. Fang Zhao was still lying on the hospital bed. His movements were restricted. Even though his wounds had already healed, he still had to lie on the hospital bed. Nanfeng carried the dog and led Yin Biao and Zuiyu into the ward. The moment they entered Fang Zhao's ward, Curly Hair jumped out of Nanfeng's arms and ran over listlessly with his tail drooping. Curly Hair easily leaped onto the hospital bed and whimpered softly, sounding extremely aggrieved. 2 streaks of tear stains could be seen under Curly Hair's eyes. Curly Hair raised his head to show Fang Zhao the bear dog collar on his neck before lying on the hospital bed and crying. Yin Biao and Zuiyu. Chapter 495. This fellow is too pretentious. He just ate a mecha and now he's acting so weak. Who are you trying to fool? Can you have some self-awareness as a top predator? Yin Biao and Zuiyu thought. We didn't even cry when we were so frightened. What is a dog that just ate a mecha crying for? What is there to cry about? Pretentious. They really couldn't understand why this dog would suddenly cry like this. Could it be a form of disguise? Too scheming. The two of them observed Feng Zhao's reaction and guessed that Feng Zhao might know the truth. Feng Zhao rubbed Curly Hair's head and glanced at Nanfeng. You go out first. Oh, all right. Then boss, I will go see if the soup is ready. Nanfeng guessed what boss was going to say to Yin Biao and Zuoyu. Could it be a lecture? Is his salary going to be docked? Nanfeng gave the two of them a look that said, you should reflect on yourselves. He didn't slow down either. After saying that he would leave, he quickly left the room and carefully closed the door. He even thoughtfully hung a "Do Not Disturb" sign on the door. The ward quietened down. Only Curly Hair's whimpering could be heard. Yin Biao and Zuoyu stood there nervously, waiting for Feng Zhao to speak first. They were still waiting for Planet Yin to deal with the disappearance of the mecha, but they had to let Feng Zhao know first. However, they didn't know how to bring it up. The ward wasn't a good place to talk either. Feng Zhao didn't immediately ask what had happened. His gaze swept across Yin Biao and Zuoyu before turning to look at Curly Hair, who was crying miserably at the side. Feng Zhao reached out to pry open the dog's lips and look at his teeth. Yin Biao and Zuoyu, who had been paying attention to Feng Zhao, seemed to have realized something and followed Feng Zhao's movements. There were still some metal shards stuck to Curly Hair's teeth. What did you eat this time? Feng Zhao patted Curly Hair's head. Lick the shards off your teeth. Yin Biao and Zuoyu. Boss, how can you say such things so calmly? No, boss. Open your eyes wide and look carefully. Those shards are all metal. Metal. Curly Hair stopped crying and stuck out his tongue to lick his teeth. He smacked his lips and bared his teeth for Feng Zhao to see. This time, he licked them clean. MMHM, Feng Zhao nodded. Curly Hair tilted his head, changed his position, and continued to cry on the hospital bed. Yin Biao and Zuoyu. This was simply a coordinated effort to destroy the corpse and destroy all evidence. No one would be able to do it without anyone noticing. How many times did it take for them to develop such a tacit understanding? They didn't believe that this dog would obediently eat dog food all the time. It was all fake. It was all a disguise. There must have been countless similar predation actions unbeknownst to them, including, but not limited to, living creatures. She couldn't lie to herself and say that the boss didn't know about it anymore. The two of them had originally been thinking about how to bring up the matter of mecha with Feng Zhao. Now, when Feng Zhao's gaze swept over them, they both lowered their heads. His heart was flustered. Bodyguards who knew too many secrets would either become absolute confidants or shut their mouths forever. There had to be a choice. Yin Biao and Zuoyu felt that they were facing the most critical professional crisis of their lives. Continue walking the dog, or be eaten. At this moment, Feng Zhao's communication device rang. It was one of the two people who had visited Feng Zhao's ward that day. You can apply to be discharged, but you must keep your communicator with you. There will be another conversation before you leave Planetine. Also, don't tell anyone else about what happened this time. You can handle your assistant and bodyguard yourself. Feng Zhao wasn't surprised. He responded and ended the call. This incident had happened too suddenly. Some things couldn't be hidden, such as his and Curly Hair's abnormalities. Actually, Feng Zhao knew that certain people had noticed the changes that had happened to him and Curly Hair. It was just that they hadn't said anything. Everyone was fine. Interplanetary Fund. Outside the door, Nanfeng had already returned with a bowl of blood-enriching soup. However, he didn't enter the room for fear of interrupting the conversation. Feng Zhao could already hear his footsteps. He raised his voice and shouted, Nanfeng, here. Boss, what can I do for you? Nanfeng opened the door and entered. Go handle the discharge procedures. Boss, your injury? It's fine. SK. I'll go right now. Nanfeng swiftly poured a bowl of soup for Feng Zhao and left to handle Feng Zhao's discharge procedures. Feng Zhao then looked at the two people in the room, who were as silent as fish. Their mouths were open, but not a single sound came out. Go find a car. Yes. The two tensed-up men walked out with heavy footsteps. At the door, the inspection team's captain was about to knock when he saw Yin Biao and Zuali. He raised an eyebrow and gave them a meaningful look as though he had already seen through you two. Seeing the two still blocking the door, the inspection team captain snorted. Hurry up and leave. What? You don't want to go back? Do you want to come over to our place for some tea and a piece of bread? No, no need. Please go ahead. The two stepped aside to give Feng Zhao some space and glanced at him. Feng Zhao indicated for them to continue looking for a car before the two left. After closing the ward door, the inspection team captain said happily, "These two bodyguards are rather loyal." He then glanced at curly hair lying beside Feng Zhao. Still crying? Feng Zhao, I don't care about anything else, but I have to reprimand you about curly hair. In the next half an hour, the inspection team captain harshly criticized Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao had actually raised an outstanding dog with the potential to become the king of spaceports into a pampered pet dog. Such a weak adult dog had already lost the qualifications to compete for the title of king of spaceports. Perhaps this scare had already caused repercussions. What a waste. What a waste of resources. As the inspection team captain criticized Feng Zhao for not knowing how to train his dog, he sighed repeatedly and poked his chest. My heart. This kind of regret and pain is like a businessman missing out on billions of dollars. Do you understand? Feng Zhao was about to speak when the inspection team captain waved his hand. No need to say anything. You don't understand. As he spoke, his expression turned solemn and he earnestly guided Feng Zhao on how to train his dog. At the end, he even said seriously, don't waste his talent. Train him more. Don't ever let him stay at home alone. I know you celebrities are very busy, but you have to remember, a dog can't always be a homebody. I understand, Feng Zhao replied. Seeing that Feng Zhao's attitude was good, the inspection team captain's expression softened. It's good that you understand. He felt that Feng Zhao had listened to everything he wanted to say today. His objective had been achieved. Sensing a gaze, he looked over. Curly hair's tear-stained black dog eyes were staring straight at him. The inspection team captain's face was filled with reluctance. With a deeply moved expression, he reached out to pat Curly Hair's head. Curly Hair licked his head. The inspection team captain laughed heartily when his hand was licked. He thought that Curly Hair was expressing intimacy and obedience. Happy, Feng Zhao shot a warning glance at Curly Hair. Curly Hair lay back down and whimpered. On the other side, Yin Biao and Zuoyu, who had left the ward to look for a car, finally came back to their senses. So the inspection team isn't going to pursue the matter at the warehouse? They're letting it off so easily? An assault mecha had suddenly vanished from the world, and they're actually not going to pursue it? Judging from Boss's reaction, he should know what to do. This made Yin Biao and Zuoyu heave a sigh of relief. With Boss holding the fort, at least they didn't have to rack their brains to make up stories. But then they thought about Curly Hair. Are we overreacting? Yin Biao asked. You even served on Planet Baiji. Isn't your mental capacity too low? Zuoyu said. That's different. That can't be explained with common sense. Such a huge mecha had been eaten until not even scraps were left. Even the scraps between the teeth had been cleaned out. That was really in existence at the top of the food chain. A super dangerous creature. What do you think now? Zuoyu asked. Yin Biao shook his head. It's not what we think now. It's what Boss thinks. After Curly Hair's transformation, they could probably calmly accept anything they encountered. Even a dog could eat a mecha. What else couldn't they accept? After completing the discharge procedures, Feng Zhao returned to his place of residence and let Nanfeng rest first. Yin Biao and Zuoyu stayed behind. Nanfeng didn't say a word and ran off, leaving the two apprehensive people behind. Curly Hair walked one round around the room and barked at Feng Zhao. There were no listening devices. Feng Zhao shut the door. Curly Hair yawned as he walked over to Feng Zhao's side and squatted down. His mouth was wide open, revealing his white teeth. This made Yin Biao and Zuoyu recall a certain violent scene. Their faces turned deathly pale, and large beads of cold sweat rolled down their foreheads. Close the door and release the dog? Are we going to be silenced? Are we going to disappear from this world without leaving a single strand of hair? As bodyguards, they knew Fang Zhao's cold and callous side. Especially Yin Biao. He still remembered Fang Zhao's performance on Planet Baiji. Fang Zhao didn't say anything. He was thinking about his next arrangements. In Curly Hair's eyes, other people and other dogs were just food. This was also the reason why Fang Zhao had been so strict with it. Once it relaxed, or if it was instilled with the wrong ideas, it would become agitated and would not be able to differentiate between friend and foe. It would attack indiscriminately. Although Nan Feng, Zuiyu, and Yin Biao were all on Curly Hair's side, they couldn't compare to his first personal terminal. Fang Zhao's control over not harming the innocent with his personal terminal destroyed was already the result of Fang Zhao's control. As for Yin Biao and Zuiyu, Fang Zhao had already made a decision after observing their personalities. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let them watch Curly Hair. "Tell me, what did you see?" Fang Zhao asked. The two shook their heads firmly. "No, we didn't see anything." Wasn't this how they should answer such a question after seeing a huge secret? Wasn't that the standard answer? Fang Zhao frowned as he watched the two tense up. "Curly Hair, you scared them." Curly Hair, who was squatting at the side mourning his first personal terminal and pondering how to get Fang Zhao to buy him another beautiful personal terminal without having to do the exam, suddenly raised his head. His eyes were filled with grievance from being slandered as he loudly defended himself. "I didn't." Yin Biao and Zuiyu suddenly looked over. It was as if they could hear their fragile worldview being shattered and reconstructed. Inwardly, this dog has spoken. Chapter 496. After crying out his grievances, Curly Hair quickly realized that he had been exposed again. He lowered his head and glanced at Fang Zhao. Fang Zhao's eyelids twitched when Curly Hair cried out, but his expression remained calm. He glanced at Yin and Zuiyu, who looked as though they had been struck by lightning, and told Curly Hair, "Go over and reflect on yourself." Curly Hair was so aggrieved that he started crying again. Great. Forget about getting a new terminal. Who knew how many more sets of tests he would have to do before he could get another chance at a new terminal? Curly Hair's eyes teared up as he glanced at the stiff Yin and Zuiyu. Then, he walked over to a corner and faced the wall to reflect on himself. Yin Biao and Zuiyu felt their scalps go numb from Curly Hair's gaze. When they saw Curly Hair sobbing against the wall, they felt as though a bucket of cold water had been poured over their heads. This scene was very familiar. Similar scenes flashed through their minds. Were there countless soul-stirring events behind Curly Hair's solitary confinement? After a while, the two felt their blood start flowing again. Their bodies weren't as stiff as before, and their thoughts were starting to function normally. Yin Biao tried to hold it in, but he still asked in the end, his voice filled with apprehension. "Boss, Curly Hair, just like what you saw. He can talk and change forms," Fang Zhao said. The two of them finally regained their composure. "Oh, so it's like that." On the inside, they thought, Holy shit. Can he talk and change forms? Is this a fucking dog?" Zuiyu asked tentatively. "Boss, previously, he ate the assault mecha that was chasing us at the warehouse. Will he have indigestion?" Fang Zhao glanced at them and replied calmly, "No." The two of them weren't surprised by Fang Zhao's reaction, but they continued to snarl. "Like I said, this isn't the first time he's eaten a mecha. Who knows, he might have done even more violent things in the past. Don't even think about running away after knowing this secret." Furthermore, Curly Hair had saved them this time. It seemed like Fang Zhao didn't intend to let Curly Hair clean up them. At this moment, Yin Biao and Zuiyu's survival instincts erupted. "Don't worry, boss. We definitely won't say anything. We definitely won't say anything at the spaceport. No matter who asks, we won't say anything." The two of them repeatedly promised. After a pause, Yin Biao's face showed a hint of awkwardness. "So, boss, you always want us to keep an eye on it because—" "To prevent it from randomly eating," Fang Zhao said. Yin Biao and Zuiyu felt immense pressure. Why did they suddenly feel a sense of responsibility to save the world on their shoulders? Fang Zhao seemed to have thought of something and looked at Yin Biao. "Oh right, before the joint performance, did you want to say something to me?" No. Yin Biao shook his head. Fang Zhao then looked at Zuiyu. Seeing Fang Zhao looking at him, Zuiyu hurriedly shook his head. No, I have nothing to say. Fang Zhao reminded them of a few things they needed to pay attention to before letting the two of them go back to rest. After experiencing this incident, no matter how strong their psychological endurance was, they still needed time to adjust. Hearing that they could leave, Yin Biao and Zuiyu breathed a sigh of relief. Yes, we will be careful. Boss, should we tell Nanfeng about this? Yin Biao asked. Not yet. All he needs to do is maintain his current enthusiasm for work, Fang Zhao said. Yin Biao and Zuiyu blushed when they heard that. They understood now. This meant that they had no enthusiasm for work. In fact, this was indeed the case. In the past, they hadn't had much enthusiasm. Of course, at the beginning, there had been some, but Fang Zhao had needed their protection very few times. Most of the time, he had been studying, registering for classes, training, taking exams, working part-time as a chauffeur, and walking the dog. Among their peers, it was no different from retirement. They were in the prime of their lives and still had ambitions. No one would be willing to live such a life a few decades earlier. Naturally, their enthusiasm for work had gradually decreased. Now it was different. Their tasks were arduous. Bodyguards and chauffeurs were all easy tasks. The most dangerous was walking the dog. How could that be called walking the dog? That was called saving the world. Holding the dog leash was like holding a battle flag, always ready for battle. In the next 5 minutes, the two of them reflected on their previous work attitude and took the initiative to ask for a pay cut. Boss, we will definitely work hard. As the two of them were leaving Fang Zhao's place, they bumped into Nanfeng, who was carrying a large bag. Nanfeng looked at their pale faces and asked, Did you two get criticized for not doing your job well? The atmosphere around the two of them was heavy. Nanfeng's expression changed. He leaned over and asked in a low voice, Pay cut? The two of them nodded. Nanfeng relaxed and patted their shoulders with a smile. Pay cut is a small matter. It's fine as long as you didn't get fired. Where else can you find such an easy job with such high pay? Nanfeng didn't notice the complicated gazes of the two of them. He sent Fang Zhao a message saying that he had work to report. After receiving permission, he quickly carried the bag into the room. The moment he opened the door, Nanfeng saw a familiar scene. Curly Hair was facing the wall with 2 obvious tear stains on his face. Nanfeng exclaimed exaggeratedly, Oh my God! What happened to little Curly Curls again? It was obvious that Curly Hair had been reprimanded by his boss. However, Nanfeng pretended not to know. He couldn't scold his boss. He definitely wouldn't scold someone who paid him a high salary. Nanfeng could only rub Curly Hair's head to appease him. Then, he decisively turned around and went to report to Fang Zhao. Yin and Zhua, who were watching this scene was so familiar they were about to go blind. The two of them felt that they were really lucky. They had actually survived this time and time again. In the past, Yin Biao and Zuiyu hadn't cared about what Curly Hair had done. They had only cared about ridiculing Nanfeng. Wasn't it just a dog worth over 200 million? Did it have to be like this? Now, reality had proven that it really did have to be like this. If the three of them really met with danger, Curly Hair would definitely protect Nanfeng, who had always supported him. The clueless Nanfeng was talking to Fang Zhao briskly. Look, boss. The people from the spaceport just gave us some dog food. They said it was a reward for Curly Hair. I saw that it was all good stuff. The room door shut, cutting off the sound of the conversation inside. Yin Biao and Zuiyu exchanged glances and returned to their own quarters in silence. Only now did the two of them truly feel like they had a new lease on life. Putting aside this ambush incident, just talking about Curly Hair, now that they recalled the past, they felt that those seemingly innocent dog eyes hid a boundless, ominous glint behind them. The two of them pondered hard. How should they walk the dog in the future? After this incident, they couldn't accept the term walking the dog. High risk. After pondering for a while, Yin Biao turned to Zuiyu and said, Do you remember when Boss had just moved to that private house by the sea? Nanfeng went to look for Boss in the morning. Zuiyu recalled for a moment, and nodded. Right, I remember now. He even opened a video chat group to praise the dog. They didn't know if there were monitoring devices in the room, so they didn't dare say too much. They could only recall the rest themselves. What did Nanfeng say in the video chat group after looking for Boss in the morning? As expected of our family's dog, worth close to 300 million. Even when basking in the sun, it gives off a metallic luster. Luster my ass. It didn't come from basking in the sun. It could have turned into metal from the start. Whether it was a burp or a fart, the breath was so long. There was even a smell of gunpowder. The two of them fell into a trance as they recalled what Nanfeng had said. At that time, Nanfeng had opened a video chat group. They had also seen the image of curly hair coming out of the sea. Now that they analyzed it in detail, no one knew how long curly hair had been walking in the sea or what he had done. Zhuyu was alarmed. He took 2 deep breaths to calm his churning emotions. Say, that burp and fart. What could it have eaten to produce such a smell? Perhaps Nanfeng wasn't talking brainlessly. Were they just too inexperienced? Couldn't see the truth? The two of them shuddered at the thought of the figure with the metallic sheen whipping the mech and gnawing on it until nothing was left. I can't think about it anymore. I'll be scared to death if I think about it. Being able to calmly walk the dog was like saving the world. They actually felt a sense of, today is another safe day. However, before the two of them could finish rejoicing, Nanfeng came looking for them with the dog in his arms. Yin Biao and Zhuayu's hearts thumped. All the cells in their bodies went on high alert. Nanfeng didn't enter the house. He just stood at the door with the dog in his arms. Hey, I'm going out for a bit. We will be leaving Planetine in 2 days. There are probably some procedures to be done here. You guys keep an eye on the boss. I know about the boss, but where are you taking him? The two of them were nervous. Nanfeng didn't understand. Of course, to walk the dog. Don't tell me I can ride him to the battlefield? When a dog is in a bad mood, it's better to go out for a walk. Is there a need to ask such a simple question? How many times has it been? You still don't remember. Nanfeng looked at the two of them with a disappointed expression. They couldn't even do something as simple as walking the dog. No wonder the boss deducted their pay. Yin Biao and Zhuyu seemed to have thought of something. They looked at Nanfeng with complicated gazes. There was a tinge of sympathy and envy. Cliché, Happy National Day, everyone. Chapter 497. Nanfeng brought Curly Hair out for a walk. Since the performance was over and the most important mission was completed, it was time to relax and take little Curly Hair out for a walk. He was a dog, after all. Walking him for a walk would make him happy, or he could run with him and forget everything after a nap. Nanfeng didn't feel any psychological burden as he carried Curly Hair out. Even though this place was strictly controlled, there were many places for him to move around freely. Even indoors, there were some man-made sceneries that were very unique to Planetine. If not for the fact that photography wasn't allowed here, Nanfeng would have definitely taken a picture and posted it on his social media. Nanfeng put Curly Hair down when they reached the stroll area and let him choose where he wanted to go. Since he didn't have a destination, he just had to follow the dog. Nanfeng made good use of his time to look at Planet Yin's unique decorations. He didn't notice that Curly Hair, who had been walking listlessly with his tail drooping, had gradually become more spirited. His footsteps had also quickened. Nanfeng discovered that Curly Hair was very pleased with himself when he started to trot. Indeed, a dog would come out for a walk when he was in a bad mood. In this small team, only he, Nanfeng, knew how to raise a dog. Even a boss like Feng Zhao couldn't compare. Nanfeng concluded that Feng Zhao didn't know how to raise a dog. Nanfeng soon saw a few young people gathered in front of him. They were holding a palm-sized machine and shouting excitedly. Nanfeng went over to join in the fun. After asking around, he found out that these were local high school students who had come here for an internship. Their team had been arranged to stay in another corner of the reception area. Today was their day off, so they had come out to bask in the sun and play games. Curly Hair looked at them eagerly. However, the students who were enjoying themselves didn't pay any attention to the dog in front of them. Nanfeng found out from one of the students that this was a gadget developed by Planet Yin's gaming enthusiasts to pass the time. Due to Planet Yin's regulations, it couldn't be connected to the internet. Gu Xiaofeng's handheld game console? Nanfeng looked curiously at the gadget in the student's hands. Yes, I heard that the creator of this series of game consoles was very interested in many things from the old era and designed this design. Don't underestimate it just because it's bulky and can't compare to many new gadgets, but the quality isn't even comparable to your $10,000 consoles. Nanfeng agreed. From a certain perspective, this could also be considered a military product. After all, it was produced on Planet Yin. After understanding the situation, Nanfeng didn't plan on staying here any longer. He decided to bring Curly Hair out for a stroll. He pulled the leash, but it didn't budge. Curly Hair? Curly Hair squatted there and stared at the group of students. He didn't even glance at Nanfeng. Not leaving? All right, let's sit here for a while. Nanfeng sat down with an indifferent attitude and watched the group of students play with the ancient Xiaofeng paw machine. What's so fun about a single-player game that can't be connected to the internet? 5 minutes later, Nanfeng, little brother, can I play with it for a while? Curly Hair stared at Nanfeng as he sat there playing games. His eyes seemed to be filled with desire, but no one paid him any attention. 1 minute later, Curly Hair hopped onto a stone bench and squeezed over to take a closer look. From time to time, he would extend his dog paw to touch the buttons on the handheld device. His strength was as gentle as a collector treating his treasured collection. Elsewhere, Yin Biao and Zuoyu, who had mixed feelings, were called over by Feng Zhao. The person in charge of Planet Yin informed Feng Zhao that someone wanted to meet him. Boss, should we call Curly Hair back? Yin Biao asked. After witnessing Curly Hair's abilities, Yin Biao felt that it was safer to keep Curly Hair by his side. Gnawing on mechas would be easy. Who knows, he might even be able to wipe out an entire army. Feng Zhao shook his head. No need. There's no need to tell Nanfeng either. The other party might have contacted him at this time because they knew that Curly Hair was going out. Curly Hair's abnormality couldn't be hidden from everyone. He could sense that someone was helping him cover up. Just like during this ambush, Planet Yin's side had suppressed the matter and didn't make a big deal out of it. Only a few people knew about it. He also wanted to meet the person who was helping to cover up the truth, as well as find out their motives. Very quickly, Yin Biao and Zuoyu arrived at Feng Zhao's residence. 2 soldiers came over and escorted them away. The reception area was huge. Ever since arriving here, the artistic team's range of activities had been extremely limited. They simply hadn't been anywhere else. Feng Zhao followed the 2 soldiers and took the elevator to an underground level. After going through another security check, they were sent to another location by a rail car that looked like a carriage. Someone else was taking them there. Yin Biao and Zuoyu were both nervous and doubtful. The security check had been very strict before arriving. However, it seemed much more relaxed after alighting from the rail car. There weren't many soldiers in sight. The more it was like this, the more apprehensive the 2 became. Something didn't feel right. It was weird. According to the previous situation, there should be an important person who wanted to see them, and his status should be very high, but the situation in front of them made them waver. Even the feeling of being monitored had lessened. Either the other party had used more advanced surveillance equipment, or there wasn't any surveillance at all. The more they didn't know, the more worried they were. Feng Zhao had some thoughts. Inside, the soldier leading the way gestured to a door in front. Yin Biao wanted to take a step forward and take a look, but was stopped by Feng Zhao. He opened the door. They recognized the person sitting inside. This was the person who had received the artistic team when they had first arrived from Earth. Compared to when he had received the artistic team, this person was much more casual. He had a friendly smile on his face and didn't have a formal style. Come. Take a seat first. There's food in the drawer. There's a water dispenser beside it. Take whatever you want. Wait a little longer. Someone from the Interplanetary Fund will be here soon. They want to meet you. After Feng Zhao sat down, the person asked with concern, "Are your injuries better?" "Much better," Feng Zhao replied. After inquiring about Feng Zhao's injuries, The person thanked Fang Zhao for saving an important engineer from the base. I heard about the incident. Don't worry, we have already screened out the dangerous individuals. There's no need to worry about an assassination. The person was about to say something when he saw Fang Zhao turn his head and look outside. His eyebrows twitched and he stopped talking. The soundproofing of the door was all right, but Fang Zhao could still hear footsteps approaching. It wasn't just one person. There were people he knew and people he didn't know. The footsteps of the leader were fast but didn't seem hurried. They were swift and decisive, yet there was a sense of sternness hidden in them. Strange people. The door opened again. The leader was a woman who looked relatively young. She had a faint smile on her face. She wasn't cold, and her attitude could even be considered amiable. It was easy to let down one's guard. However, when her calm gaze swept over, it gave off a strange sense of pressure. She wore a pair of white gloves and a simple work attire similar to the work attire of many research institutes on Planet E. Behind her was Little Bear, who was wearing a gold badge. The three people following behind her weren't wearing military uniforms, but Yin Biao and Zhuoyu could smell the scent of their kind. People who could casually bring along 3 bodyguards on Planet E were very special. They looked at the badges worn by the 3 bodyguards. Interplanetary Fund. The person in charge, who had been sitting opposite Fang Zhao, suddenly stood up from his chair and took 2 steps forward before bowing to the leader. Why did you come personally? As he spoke, he even pulled out a chair for the other party. His attitude was respectful, but there was a tinge of fear in his reverence. Little Bear, who was a step behind, didn't receive such treatment. He dragged a chair over and climbed up. When he looked at Fang Zhao, he revealed a smile that was 70% excited and 30% shy. The person in charge introduced Fang Zhao. This is the Interplanetary Fund's highest authority, Yu Hua. Fang Zhao was also astonished. He hadn't expected that the person who wanted to meet him would actually be the mysterious highest authority of the Interplanetary Fund. Yin Biao and Zhuoyu felt that this was inconceivable. They had actually met this legendary figure. This wasn't the public chairman, but the highest authority behind the entire Interplanetary Fund, the #1 boss. To put it bluntly, the Interplanetary Fund's public chairman would probably be as timid as a coward in front of this person. However, after seeing a dog that swallowed a mecha, he was unexpectedly calm when he saw a legendary figure. Little Bear, who had just sat down, pursed his lips when he heard the name Yu Hua. Chuihua sounded so nice. However, it was better not to call her by her nickname outside to give her some face. The person in charge was about to introduce Fang Zhao to Yu Hua and the others. Yu Hua raised her hand to stop the other party and smiled warmly. I want to have a chat with Fang Zhao. You guys go ahead. Oh, all right. Take your time. Call me if there's anything. The person in charge didn't say anything else and immediately left with his people. Yu Hua gestured to the 3 bodyguards she had brought along to let them leave. Then, she looked at Little Bear. You leave too. Little Bear had a "how can you treat me like this" expression on his face. His eyes were filled with protest as he pouted and walked out the door, looking like he was throwing a tantrum. Fang Zhao also gave Yin Biao and Zhuoyu a look, indicating for them to leave as well. Yin Biao and Zhuoyu were worried as they walked out. They had intended to probe the 3 Interplanetary Fund bodyguards, but when they surveyed their surroundings, they realized that the 3 bodyguards were nowhere to be seen. Only the child who had been chased out was playing with the black ball in his hand and mumbling something inaudible. Yin Biao and Zhuoyu exchanged glances and put on friendly smiles. Little friend? Zhuoyu, who thought that he was more liked by the child, called out in his most gentle voice. Little Bear turned back, his eyes slightly red and glistening with tears, as though he was still immersed in the anger of being chased out. However, when he looked at Zhuoyu, the emotions in his eyes dissipated at a visible rate. There was no longer any trace of redness or the bashfulness of a child. Instead, he gave off an icy feeling. Zhuoyu. It was a little scary. Yin Biao saw that Zhuoyu was in a daze and didn't pin any hopes on him. He softened his tone and asked Little Bear, Little friend, where are the 3 bodyguards that followed you just now? Don't they need to stand guard here and protect you? Little Bear rolled his eyes in disdain. What use is a bunch of salted fish? Yin Biao. The atmosphere was eerily quiet. It was truly the top predator in the universe. Of course, it is not appropriate to describe it as a predator because it can eat anything. Yu Hua's words were quite a shock to Feng Zhao. He had originally thought that curly hair was just a special type of extraterrestrial life form, but now it seemed like a miracle. Feng Zhao thought of something and asked, "What about the original template?" Yu Hua shook her head. "I don't know about that. However, my guess is that this kind of powerful life form, favored by the universe, must have had an extremely special energy field when it was formed. Otherwise, you wouldn't have become like this. You are still you, but you might not be the original you." After the Interplanetary Fund had discovered curly hair's existence, they had also investigated Feng Zhao, especially that Blackstreet. However, up until now, the only person with such an obvious enhancement was Feng Zhao. At that time, the residents who lived nearby were not affected much. Feng Zhao understood what Yu Hua was trying to say. She was explaining why Feng Zhao's body was so different from ordinary people, and why he could block a bullet with such strong penetrating power and recover in such a short time. However, Feng Zhao was thinking about the day he had been reborn. If that night had been the time when the miracle substance had used curly hair as a template to form a new life form, did that mean that the original stray dog had really died that night and been replaced by a clone with a strange life's core? That was the current curly hair? Was that why curly hair's memories of the past were always hazy? And when this new life form had been formed, the special energy field had appeared, or the special energy that had dissipated had allowed Feng Zhao to wake up in this body. If curly hair wasn't the original stray dog, then was this body of Feng Zhao's still the original Feng Zhao? Or was this body also a clone? There was no way to know, but it was true that he had come back to life. He had come back to life after more than 500 years. The wound on his abdomen had already completely disappeared. It was impossible to tell that he had been shot. "The universe is a place where miracles are born," Feng Zhao said. Yu Hua looked at Feng Zhao and suddenly smiled. She shifted her scrutinizing gaze away. For an uncontrollable variable like curly hair, we should have killed it as soon as we discovered it. Although we weren't certain of success, he was still in the early stages. Having no natural enemies doesn't mean he's invincible. However, I ultimately decided to take a look first. Since there was someone who could restrain this monster, the threat could also become a help. Feng Zhao, you were the one who made me withdraw my decision to kill curly hair. Yu Hua's gaze turned to Feng Zhao like an amiable elder looking at a junior who could be entrusted with heavy responsibilities. Feng Zhao. Yu Hua's tone was serious. Feng Zhao, from your music, I can hear that you truly love this blue planet. However, curly hair is different. He is a special existence and doesn't have any sense of belonging to other people or these planets. Now that he has matured, he is like a son of the universe compared to humans. No one knows how much power he possesses or what his weaknesses are. I don't wish to face him one day, nor do I wish to see the day he opposes humans. If such a day really comes, it will be a full-scale Armageddon that will be even more devastating than the 100-year period of destruction. Feng Zhao's pupils constricted. As someone who had personally experienced the period of destruction, the term Armageddon had a huge impact on him. Given Feng Zhao's understanding of curly hair, Yu Hua wasn't exaggerating. Feng Zhao had long been aware of this, which was also why he had been guiding curly hair. Feng Zhao, your body has been modified by the energy of the miracle substance of the universe. You still have a long life. Curly hair can bring destruction, but he can also bring protection. Our interplanetary fund is just a pioneer. The task of protection will be handed over to you. Not for the Interplanetary Fund, but for everyone on this planet. The Interplanetary Fund was happy to see curly hair's current growth trend. Thus, the Interplanetary Fund had often given Feng Zhao some help. They couldn't find curly hair's weakness and weren't confident that they could restrain this apex predator in the event of a conflict. Furthermore, the Interplanetary Fund had its own tasks. Currently, Their main focus was on warp engine research and development, and they also had to prevent certain extremist organizations from causing trouble. They didn't have the energy to deal with an unstable factor like curly hair. Fortunately, it seemed like there wasn't a need to expend energy to deal with curly hair. Letting Feng Zhao keep an eye on him was a good thing. Since Feng Zhao could control this unstable factor to a level they were happy with, it was a good thing. The Interplanetary Fund wasn't willing to upset this balance. Therefore, Yuhua had taken some time off to meet Feng Zhao here to discuss future cooperation. Guessing that curly hair's growth required energy, Yuhua indicated that the Interplanetary Fund could provide some assistance, as well as power ores. After 2 hours of preliminary discussion, Yuhua looked at the message left by the laboratory and exchanged contact details with Feng Zhao. She then gave Feng Zhao a contact number. I will be very busy during this period. This is my assistant's contact number. You can contact him directly if you have any thoughts on the matter we discussed today. He also knows curly hair. After saying that, Yuhua prepared to leave. Before leaving, she paused for a moment. Let me give you another piece of news. On account of you saving an important engineer, you won't regret taking that bullet for Yuan Zhang. Chapter 499. Nanfeng had just finished a round when Feng Zhao arrived. He had finally broken his personal record with much difficulty and was in high spirits. Nanfeng hadn't expected Planet Yin's self-made handheld console and game to be so interesting. Although curly hair would stretch out his paw from time to time, it always played a crucial role. It was rather impressive. As expected of a dog worth close to 300 million. Even his paw was blessed with luck. Nanfeng didn't think that curly hair really knew how to play such advanced games. He thought that curly hair was just trying his luck. Thus, when he saw the screen full of salutes, Nanfeng excitedly picked up curly hair's paw and kissed it twice. Moo, moo. As expected of our little curly curls. Sigh, this little paw is really impressive. Curly hair puffed out his chest and stuck out his tongue excitedly. He hadn't played a game console in a long time, and it was a new one. He was happy. He had even broken a record. Then, the man and the dog saw Feng Zhao standing there with a straight face. Cough, boss, why are you here? Nanfeng bounced up from the stone bench and returned the game console to the student beside him. He stood there awkwardly and felt a little guilty. I usually presented myself as an elite in front of Feng Zhao. It wasn't easy for me to get a promotion. What would I do if my persona crumbled now? Would boss think that I was a good-for-nothing, lazy person who found excuses not to work and a two-faced person? Curly hair immediately jumped down from the stone bench and walked over with his tail drooping. He carefully raised his eyes to look at Feng Zhao. Dogs were adept at capturing a human's facial expressions to sense the other party's emotions. Now, although Feng Zhao didn't have any expression on his face, Curly Hair knew that Feng Zhao wasn't in a good mood. Curly Hair still wanted Feng Zhao to buy a game console for him. Feng Zhao didn't say much since they were still outside. He let Nanfeng, Yin Biao, and Zuoyu return to rest. The art troupe was about to leave Planet Yin, so they had to go back and prepare. After returning to their residence in silence, Nanfeng lamented, "Games have ruined me. Boss's evaluation of me is definitely not good now. He won't fire me, right?" Yin Biao and Zuoyu looked at him with a complicated expression. "I don't think so. You're still very useful." Nanfeng didn't believe it. He sighed and collapsed on the sofa. "I didn't expect it either. I only wanted to play for a while, but 3 hours passed in the blink of an eye." What pained Nanfeng the most was that he was caught playing games while walking the dog. Would he still be assigned dog-walking tasks in the future? It was a workplace mistake. It was too late to regret now. He could only think about how to improve the boss's impression of him. Elsewhere, after Feng Zhao returned to his residence, Curly Hair paced around the room before looking at Feng Zhao. It was this handheld game console that had freed him from the pain of his personal terminal being trampled on. So, buy it? A woo? Curly Hair rolled around and lightly scratched Feng Zhao's shoes with his little paw. His jet-black eyes shone with desire. Feng Zhao looked at him without saying anything. Curly Hair rolled another 2 rounds and raised his head to look at Feng Zhao. The muscles on his eyebrows were raised, making him look even more pitiful. Feng Zhao continued to keep a straight face. "You want the handheld game console?" Feng Zhao asked. "Yes." Curly Hair jumped up. "All right, do a set of comprehensive questions. Full marks are 100. Don't even think about getting anything less than 95. Woo. Feng Zhao presented a set of questions. Among them, the multiple-choice questions were related to this trip to Planet Een and the Interplanetary Fund collaboration he had just mentioned. While Feng Zhao was presenting the questions, Curly Hair seized the time to search for the knowledge stored in his memory and put on an emergency pre-exam revision. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to play if he did poorly. Curly Hair nervously did a set of questions seriously. After he was done, he even double-checked his answers 3 times before submitting them at the last minute of Feng Zhao's allotted time. The scores came out very quickly. 95 points. Just right on the line. Feng Zhao deducted a little less from the analytical questions since Curly Hair had done the multiple-choice questions correctly. Curly Hair's spirits soared when he heard that the score was met. "Oh, whoa. Game console? Game console." Feng Zhao contacted Nanfeng right in front of Curly Hair and told him to buy a game console. Nanfeng, who had been lying in his room, was instantly revitalized. It was time to display his own value and raise Boss's favorable impression of him. As for Boss's decision to buy a game console, Nanfeng expressed, "I understand. Usually, when it's inconvenient for the boss to make an appearance, the assistant will take the blame. Yep, it's not the boss who wants to play. It's this little assistant who wants to play." Nanfeng, who felt that he had seen through Boss's thoughts, happily ran off to buy a game console. However, Planet Yin's game consoles weren't that easy to buy. He had to go through the relevant procedures. Not only was there a limit to how many game consoles could be purchased, but they also had to go through a series of inspections before they could be purchased. He had heard that Planet Yin's electronic products weren't usually sold to the public. This time, only one had been sold to him. He couldn't buy more even if he wanted to. After settling the matter of the game console, Feng Zhao contacted the Interplanetary Fund and made a list. They were about to leave Planet Een. He had to prepare some dog food to prevent Curly Hair from drooling over his surroundings. On the day the art team left Planet Een, Feng Zhao met Yuan Zheng in the send-off party. Yuan Zheng was seated in a bulletproof armored vehicle. There were soldiers protecting him beside him. Yuan Zheng had matured a lot after this dangerous assassination attempt. He wasn't as willful as before. However, he was still an admirer of Feng Zhao. In the past, Yuan Zheng had idolized Great Master Hung Xian as a god-level idol and Feng Zhao as a human-level idol. Now, I was wrong. I, Zhao God, am also a god. Yuan Zheng held a box in his hands. It wasn't the Poseidonsaur skeleton model that Feng Zhao had given him. Instead, it was a bullet that looked like a blossoming flower. Feng Zhao had saved his life. All he could do was live up to Feng Zhao's expectations. At the same time, Feng Zhao's personal records were split into 2. One was ordinary, while the other was classified as top secret. On the return spaceship, Feng Zhao looked at the open gift box in his hands. This is a small gift that Planet Een has prepared for every invited artist. The soldier who delivered the box said. Feng Zhao had heard from the other artists that it had been the same in the past. Every time they returned, there would be a thank you gift prepared by Planet Een. It wasn't particularly expensive, but it was very sincere and had a Planet Een style to it. It could be brought back for one's own collection or as a gift. This time, the thank you gift box contained Planet Een-style trinkets made from power ore. There was also an exquisite model that wasn't classified. Guardian Series Space Warship, Initial. Feng Zhao looked at the exquisite warship model in his hands. The Guardian Initial Warship was the first generation of divine armaments that had led mankind into space. Feng Zhao had seen relevant information while researching the history of space travel in the new era. Production of the initial warships had stopped over 200 years ago and had been completely retired over 100 years ago. However, In the hearts of the older generation of space enthusiasts, that initial warship held an irreplaceable position. Feng Zhao had already seen the real warship at Planet Yin's exhibition hall. He planned on bringing the model back to great-grandfather and great-grandmother Feng. He remembered the longing on their faces when they had mentioned this warship. Feng Zhao studied the gift box that he had just received. Nanfeng was very busy handling various matters on Earth. As for Yin Biao and Zuoyu, Feng Zhao had arranged for them to take turns feeding Curly Hair. This was also an opportunity for the two of them to develop a better relationship with Curly Hair. Feeding was done in the room, and the dog food was provided by the Interplanetary Fund. They couldn't let Curly Hair starve after being away for so long. This also saved this dog from staring at the power vessel and drooling. Inside the room, Yin Biao, who was in charge of feeding Curly Hair, stiffly retrieved a piece of power ore from the box and placed it in front of Curly Hair. Feng Zhao had instructed Curly Hair to maintain his dog form when outside, so he could only nibble on it bit by bit. Crunch, 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 crunch. It was like nibbling on an apple. The numb salted fish duo thought, I used to be a man of steel who was shocked to the point that my worldview was reorganized. But now, I can calmly watch it chew on the oars and gently remind it to lick up some of the splashes on the ground. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.